Hi, y'all. It's showtime. Doing things, doing stuff. It's the 13th of February, 2021. We are AC and myself and Sam are in the room. Max is in like Guatemala or something like that. We'll pretend like he's out helping like endangered species or kids or something. But yeah, if it had anything to do with endangered species, he's probably trying to shoot it.
That's probably true.
About the hunting endangered species?
The president has been acquitted.
Shocker.
I mean, yeah. Because that was the most important thing to do right now is have that conversation. Baseball's heating up. Baseball's been a fun conversation. We had a Super Bowl since last time we all got together. So we got some things to talk about. We're almostinagreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Give us a like and share and that kind of stuff. Help us get a bigger audience. I'm trying to retire to do this full time, so help me out. All right, guys, what's going on? What's new? What's the haps, Jax?
You mentioned baseball. I kind of want to talk about baseball.
Which part of baseball?
You've piqued my interest. So I bought opening day tickets to the Braves series against the Phillies.
Okay.
And if you get on the website right now, there's no indications there's any social distancing. This is April the 7th, maybe? 7th or 8th?
Okay.
Anyway. But if you get on MLB's website, not all of the teams in baseball are selling tickets right now. Actually, the overwhelming majority of them are not selling tickets right now. So I'm just curious if they're still doing social distancing when baseball season officially kicks off, when the season itself kicks off. What are they going to do? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to reimburse the people that have bought seats that they can't actually sit in them. But I don't understand why, as a whole, MLB is not sort of universally saying, okay, you can't sell tickets until we decide what we're going to do about this sort of thing, or if this is going to be a state or locale decision about.
I mean, that's how
distancing.
the NFL was for the later portion of the season. Different states were letting different things happen, and so different stadiums. Because like the Packers had, I think, NFC Championship. I think they had like 25,000, which is like a quarter of their normal capacity. They're like 80 something, a little over a quarter. Anyway, the NFL was doing that, but it wasn't universal that way either. It was hit and miss. The joke was that Miami was like 100%. Like you go all, but 70,000 people don't show up for Miami
right.
games.
Same thing with the Marlins. Like the Marlins are lucky to have 10,000 in attendance in a regular season. So, but they're not selling tickets either.
Right.
I don't know. It's strange. You would think that they would just open it up because they're never sold out ever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know if they're going off the CDC recommendations, as far as everything else is like, it's all going to be dependent upon, what your percentage rate is in your area. If they're trying to go with that whole lead.
Atlanta was hit pretty hard. They still have a lot of travel contracts available for ICUs that are still at or near capacity. So I don't know. It struck me as odd that I can get on the Braves site and buy tickets, and you can't get them in other places.
I mean, it's one of those. I mean, the whether it's selling in hope that they can be normal by the time it gets there, because it's a weird spot. Because like, I mean, as we all know, I'm a big Rogan fan, and Rogan's talked about some of the different comedians he knows and stuff like that starting to schedule tours starting in like May and June, more summer like stuff. But it's like, man, what happens if we get there and it's not good enough to do what you're trying to do and all the other side of it. So
I think there's probably enough teams that even if there was a game tomorrow and there were no tickets on sale, the day prior, that they would still find enough people that as soon as they opened up availability to buy tickets, they'll get bought up.
Well, I think it goes to one of the conversations we had in the pre-show is that I think it's getting to the point of I don't care anymore for a lot of people. Like it's been I don't care period for a number of people, Max, for example, from the beginning. But I think as time has progressed, I'm over it. I'm done with it. Don't care anymore. I need to be social. I need to go do these things that I used to do to blow off steam, so I don't beat my wife in a car and then shoot myself or whatever.
Which is a real thing. That happens.
Surgeon General said as much, 2 or 3 months ago, that was one of the main issues was just, coronavirus fatigue. or pandemic fatigue.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Going down the COVID thing, there's recommendations, at least here locally, if you have received both doses of the vaccine and and you are exposed. Now, there's a number of different in the community definitions of exposure, but if you are exposed, you don't have to quarantine if you receive both vaccines. But the interesting thing is they're still recommending folks wearing masks in public if you receive both vaccines, which tells me that it's less about whether or not you're going to transmit it and more about there are folks that could just lie and say they've received both vaccine doses. In reality, they haven't received anything. They're just max, and you don't want to wear them. So it's interesting that both of those things are being said, that if you've received both vaccines, you don't have to quarantine if you're exposed to a person that has had COVID. But that same person should still wear a mask when they're out in public.
Right.
Well, I mean, even in that,
doesn't make any sense.
Right, and talking about consistency and that stuff. My youngest, one of his classmates tested positive,
mm-hmm.
and so his whole class went on quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll try to pull up the email here in a second. But essentially, it was like here's what you do now, parent, and here's the list of whatever. And it's like, well, we could wait like 5 days and then get him tested and come back on the 6th day. We could wait 10 days and go back without a test if there's no symptoms at any point during it, or wait the full 14 days and go back without a test regardless.
Do you have to bring proof that the test was negative?
On that,
as a parent?
for the 5 to 6 day version?
Yes.
Yeah, it
you
was
do.
with documentation, yeah.
Hmm.
But it was just one of those, it's like the middle one was the one that didn't make any sense, because it was like at 10 days or 14 days is the same thing. Because, if day 7 of the quarantine you had symptoms, you're not going back on day 14 either.
Yeah.
So
is there a document that is provided by Knox County Schools that has to be filled out by the healthcare provider saying that you were negative?
I don't know, because our pediatrician didn't do them, because I called them and that was one of all the list of things I did, and then it just happy accidented. The school went. We took the whole week off the week after that anyway because the school went red, and by the time everything settled down, he went back to school and everybody else went back to school.
Because I would think that I would hope that Knox County Schools would have a document, because otherwise, you could forge that if you wanted to. I don't know why you would want to, but you could.
Yeah. I mean, we had planned on taking him and getting him tested on day 6 or 5 or whatever and sending him back, but then the whole school was out, so it was like, well, it's no point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not really. I've started having to warn people on social media. I guess they've actually gone and gotten the vaccine, and they've gotten that official piece of paper saying they've had the vaccine, and they're like, hey, stop posting that online, because people have the ability, I guess, to take that screenshot, and with laser printers that we have nowadays, and print that out and make it look just like that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a little creepy to anybody else that you have
that you have what?
Have the papers? You got your papers?
What do you mean?
I don't know, just the idea that what do you need the paperwork for? Like, do you have to show that to people that you've had the vaccine?
I'm just curious. I'm sorry.
Like, I understand that after, okay, so for the Pfizer, 2-phase one or whatever, you probably need some paperwork to go get the second phase, so that you're like, yeah, I already had the first one. You're not going to give me the second one if I didn't have the first one, kind of thing. I get that, but just the idea of you have basically your I guess it's the same as a vaccination card that you get from a doctor, except this one is exclusively one vaccine. It's not your whole list of vaccines.
Which I assume that our health department is going to transition our shot history and include COVID on it, I would assume, just like HPV or anything else that people have received.
Right.
So, I assume that at some point in 2020, maybe even now, if I went down to the Knox County Health Department, it would have a list of all my vaccines in addition to the 2 COVIDs that I've received. So, I don't know. I don't think it's creepy that it's necessary, because as it is, you've got to provide documentation like that to go to school anyway.
True.
So it's not a whole lot. There's really no difference.
My initial thought would be, in the case that there's lessening of restrictions, and they're like, okay, we'll allow people that have had the vaccine to do A, B, or C.
Right.
And but you have to show proof that you've had 2 doses of this.
Mm-hmm. I think, doesn't Max have to have some sort of negative test there at the Yugoslavian airport to determine whether or not he can come back to the U.S.?
I think it's the other way. I know he had to get one to leave.
Really?
I'm pretty sure he said he had to get one to leave.
So I thought he had mentioned at some point, like when we were deer hunting our last weekend, he was concerned that there would be some pop-up place wherever the hell he was at that would charge $600 to provide documentation that said that he was negative. But if that's the case, why wouldn't you just be some shady doctor that for $400 instead of $500 you can just come in and get a piece of paper as opposed to whether or not you're negative.
It's an actual test or not, right?
Right.
I got to give him a little tease for. I guess you were aware that he said it in a different text. As far as him showing up to the airport, I guess he thought he could show up 45 minutes before his flight.
Jesus.
Okay.
I mean, it's Knoxville. I mean, it's the Knoxville airport. Usually, it's pretty quick. But
I've been saying that since 9/11.
Yeah, that's true.
Any domestic flight, they say show up at least an hour. Any international, show up at least 2 hours before your flight.
Anybody that has not spent the $75 or $80 on the TSA pre-check, you are dumb. That is amazing. Because when you have a line that's backed up to Egypt and all you have to do, you can keep your shoes on, you just walk in and you go to the front of the line. It's like the fast pass at an amusement park. Holy shit.
Do you have this? Did you get your ID upgrade or whatever yet?
I have not. I need to. I haven't yet.
I haven't
the
done
real ID.
Yeah.
That's funny they
as
call
opposed
it
to the unreal ID that we
Right.
currently have. Yeah.
that. Right, I'm still confused on the need part of it, but whatever,
It's more easily scanned for TSA ID scans. I don't know.
But I mean, it's gonna be it's not in place yet, but I think in 22 or whatever, you have to have it to fly domestically.
I was under the impression it was this year.
Yeah, they were trying to do it in 2020,
Yeah.
but with the pandemic, they pushed it back.
Oh, did they really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I thought about doing that. I just haven't done it yet because the line of the DMV is, of course.
Well, yeah, I went and spent an hour and a half.
So did you get yours?
I haven't gotten it yet. I finished the work. I'm waiting on it to come in the mail.
Oh,
but
okay.
I was about to say, could you do it over line or do it online or whatever?
No.
Not in person.
No, just had to sit there for an hour and a half,
Hmm.
and they're ridiculous.
Did they require you to redo your picture?
Yep, I got a new picture.
Hmm.
They're in the most ridiculous number system ever. Like old school, you go into the
Pull a little piece of paper.
you go to the deli and you pull the little thing out, and it's like number 37. Well,
37. Number 37, come get your ham.
Last call, 37.
Last call, 37.
And then after 37 went to
38.
38. Well, I'm sitting there and I don't remember what I had. I had like L115, and so I sit down and the TV that has all this crap on it is on L12. I'm like, okay, this shouldn't be too long.
Yeah.
And then it's like L13,
Q7.
R74, and there was like 15 different letters, and it was crazy. Like it was just like there's no point in this thing. Why do you put random numbers up? Like I could see maybe having a subcategory if you have one specific thing. Like
That's what I was about to say. Was it
like actual driver's tests, like you actually have to go do your driving test with an instructor, that can have a special different line than everybody else.
Right.
But between getting my carry permit and a license renewal and all the other basic kind of bullshit, why are they subdividing those lines? I just thought that was interesting.
Sounds like we need to get somebody on here and have us talk to him.
Maybe they can't afford just one big reel. They're trying to use what they've got left. They're like, oh, we still got some R's. We still got some Q's. Put them all out. We'll keep them in order.
God.
It's not even print. I mean, it's weird. Anyway.
Was it, yeah, where they're all like handwritten, like.
But then,
you get R31.
And so I go there, I do that part of it, and then now you need to go over to this other place and do your fingerprint and background check, and it's not KPD. There was some little private place over here on, where the big steel mill is over there on Ebenezer.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you can get your TSA fingerprints at.
Yeah, same place. And the only thing that I got from the DMV was, hey, don't let them charge you for this because you're paying for this, what they're going to do right now. So when you go in there and get this done, if they ask you for money, be like, no, I already paid you.
Which they wouldn't tell you unless that place had already been trying to get a bunch
Right.
of people.
Why don't we open one of those?
I don't know what kind of paperwork you have to do
I was
that.
thinking about a UPS store too.
I'll
Like, we
take
need
a
to open a
picture.
UPS store. We need to open a car wash. Like if there's 4 of them down, or 3 or 4 of them down.
Right.
Kingston Pike?
And your specialty can be not taking parts of your cars off.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, it was $100. It was $29 for the part, and it was like $65 to have it painted.
Sounds
Like,
right.
It was absurd. I didn't say anything to him about it because I'm sure that there's some sort of legalese paperwork that I had to sign, which I don't remember signing, but I'm sure that I did, that says that anything that happens to the vehicle, it's not their responsibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you get in line, we're not liable.
Mm-hmm. And it's always some 20-year-old that doesn't want to be there, wants to get back into the office, or it's warm or whatever. And so, just wonder, that's got to be the easiest job ever. Like really, it's got to be the easiest job. You go out there with a water hose. You squirt it a
spray
little bit,
and then
and you let the car go.
You do the signals, and
Yeah.
then they point at the sign.
That's what
I was thinking.
A little bit more that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. Yeah. Okay, and then they point at the sign. They're like,
Yeah.
"You see this? Like, don't roll your windows down. Make sure your vehicle's in neutral.
Take your foot off the brake.
Yeah.
My back driver's side window was cracked a little bit, and one of the 20-year-olds said, "Hey man, you need to roll that window up, otherwise you're going to be driving in a swimming pool." I said, "You know what? That $9 an hour that they're paying you, they should be paying you 10."
No, they're going to be paying you 15 here in a couple years.
We want to jump into that?
I don't care. I've already had the conversation plenty of times. I'll do it again.
I'm indifferent about the. I don't really care about the 15 an hour. I do think that there's a larger issue about minimum wage and people that are making $10, $11 an hour can't really survive.
I mean, we've had this a number of times. It's the cost of living,
right?
Is the real conversation to be had.
Correct.
And I guess my argument on it is I don't think minimum wage fixes it. I don't think that's at best it's a Band-Aid, but I don't even think it's that. Like I really think it's just a.
So fix it some other way.
Yeah, I just think to me it's just to me the minimum wage thing is just it sounds good. It's good sound bites. It makes people that think that that's the solution feel like you're doing the right thing when I don't think it's the right thing.
I don't even know how you would tackle it any other way though.
I'm not 100% on that either, but I just don't think it's going to fix it. I mean, because we've already had the conversation about the Bezos Amazon thing. If I'm Amazon, I want that. Like, I mean, I for where we sit at the shop, it wouldn't be detrimental for us to get there, but it would be detrimental for anybody else trying to get in the industry to fight us. We're not that big. We're not Amazon big, obviously, but it would be. It makes it if we couldn't have done it 6 years ago when we first started, but we can do it now. And so anybody who is starting in our industry or any industry for that matter, it makes it a larger barrier to entry to get more players in the game.
Yeah.
Which there's 1,000 other reasons why that's not good for everybody.
Yeah.
To boot. I don't again, like there's regulatory issues and there's costs, there's other costs that could be adjusted and fixed and stuff like that, but I just don't think minimum wage is the one that's going to fix it. Is the other one? No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't disagree with that. I don't know how else to fix it. I mean, if you're making $9 an hour, you're working 40-hour weeks. That's what 360. Is that right? Is that right, math? 360.
Yeah.
After taxes.
I'm not doing math right now.
What are you clearing? 360 clearing what?
290 maybe.
I mean, gas is what, $2.25 a gallon?
Right.
I mean,
now we're in a lower area compared to most of the U.S.
Right. So I mean, what do you do? I mean, a gallon of milk is what, $3?
Yeah, $3 to $5.
So one of your hours at work is spent on your gallon of milk that particular week, and $35 is taken out for gas. How much is your car insurance? $100 a month for people that are probably in a lower socioeconomic scale. Probably going to be $100 a month
if they have it. Yeah.
So $100 is gone. I mean, it's we could. You get my point. At the end of the day, you cannot live on that. It's not sustainable. And I'm not saying that $15 an hour is, but the gap's going to get larger between the people that have money and people that don't. So.
I agree. I just I
mean, I don't know if 15 was put in there to, have it be a higher end of a negotiation. It's still 7.25.
Which is crazy. Like,
it went to 7.25, what, like 10, 15 years ago?
More than that. It was the 90s, I thought.
Yeah, it's been
like mid-90s.
It's been a little bit. I mean, a good 6-pack of beer, you got to work 2 hours for it. I mean, after tax, you got to work 2 hours for a good 6-pack of beer.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people's starting argument is like, well, that's for, fast food. Like, they shouldn't be getting paid that much. Like, that's for high school people. It's like, well, those high schoolers are in school a majority of the day, Monday through Friday. Like, high schoolers aren't the people that are running McDonald's and Wendy's and fast food that you still expect to be cheap
right,
all throughout the week.
Right.
Like, those are normal day, Joe and Jill's
Mm-hmm.
working that job
Yeah.
to try to make some money.
Or supermarkets, or like I get it. I mean, people are Max for one is one that's been adamantly opposed to the $15 an hour thing, and I'm not dying on any sort of hill saying that a person that works at a fast food place should make $15 an hour, but it's more that the industry. It's more than just the fast food industry that's making $7.25 an hour.
It's like, well, we want something that cheap, but I don't care how much you got to pay them, but we still want to be able to buy that stuff really cheap.
Right.
It's like there's a cost to everything.
Right.
There's a reason some things are more expensive than others because it costs more to make them or for the overhead of being able to produce that product.
Yeah.
Right, but that's kind of my point why I don't know that the minimum wage is a solution, because it's going to make things cost more. I don't know how you argue that it won't.
I think probably we've shot ourselves in the foot, for decades.
Right.
We want cheaper stuff, so we're
right.
like, okay, we can't produce it cheaper, so we're going to start buying it overseas. So we start buying cheap stuff overseas and get used to that kind of cushion room of being able to buy super cheap shit overseas, not knowing where it came from or what it took to produce something that cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We all own iPhones here. We're cool with slave labor.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, think about the Levi's plant that was on Cherry Street back in the day here.
Yeah. I think Knoxville used to be called like the denim capital of the U.S.
Yeah.
Or...
So we sent it overseas and for that to be manufactured there, but it's not like the cost of jeans went down. The cost of jeans were the same. I mean,
if not more expensive.
Yeah. So it's not like that anybody was. It's not like Levi's brand was doing it in order to send money back to the consumer. I mean, that's not reality. Which goes back to you and I had this conversation months ago about why were we able to do that in the 70s and early 80s, and we can't seem to do that now. I don't know the answer to that, but we were able to do that previously. I don't know why it is we can't do that now.
I think one of the things that is a factor, it's sexist as hell, I guess, but we had less people in the workforce, and I don't know if it's a chicken or the egg. I don't know which one changed the game. Whether it's women entering the workforce like World War II kind of shit and not moving forward or whatever, or I don't know. It's chicken and egg conversation, but there is more labor than demand, which is one of the reasons why companies get away with minimum wage.
When you say chicken and egg, you mean the additional people going into the workforce was a result of inflation, or because I think that's the reason why that's the case.
That's what I'm saying. Right. Whether the housewife, the home ec degrees got into
happy to have that conversation too if you want to.
Shit.
Whether the home ec degrees got into the workforce because they needed the extra income, or because of the more feminist movement part of it where they wanted to work on their own against stuff, which is fine. But at the end of the day, especially post World War II when all the GIs came back, there was an overflow of employees of labor. It's the same argument we've had about why we can't the amount of damage it would do if we quit all the foreign meddling that our military is doing and brought all our soldiers home. We already have an overflow of workforce as it sits right now. If we brought all the guys that are all over the planet in the army back here, we don't have jobs for them. And so again, I'm not saying which one was it's not a who started it and why kind of conversation, but that is part of the conversation. We have more labor than demand for labor, especially on the low end of labor, like basic manufacturing, fast food job, shit like that.
I mean, back when people used to try to find jobs in the newspaper, there was always jobs listed in the newspaper. So I was kind of wondering, how much of a job demand is there? Is that companies kind of putting things out there to have resumes on hand? It always seemed like somebody was hiring. That page was never fucking blank.
You're right. And it still exists at some level, but
also want to point out too that the housing market, at least here locally, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Housing market in Knoxville, at least for the say 275, 300-ish to 400, there's a higher demand for that now than there was 2 years ago. So the only reason I'm bringing that up is you would think during a pandemic with COVID, people are losing their jobs. Well, people are probably losing their jobs, but not the folks that have the ability to spend $300,000 on a house.
For sure. And there's two parts of that too. Is there's the local part of that, your example, and that you were already here, but we are growing quickly, well ahead of forecasted prior to this year. Mm-hmm. Knoxville is like if when Larson J was in here, we were talking about the The Planning Commission here in Knox County is projecting 200,000+ people over the next 10 years added to Knoxville, and not in babies. Maybe there's a small bump in babies just because pandemic boredom, but the actual projection is.
I'm bored. I want to have sex.
Right. I mean, I'm not bored right now.
Much
so
of a spike as they thought there was going to be.
I know it was a joke early in it, but that was a joke on my end too. But either way, the planning board is projecting that Knox County is going to grow by 200,000 people coming in from other places into Knox County.
Is there any sort of research into why that is the case? Why here? I mean,
taxes, cost of living,
okay.
all the standard stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's maybe
a baseball stadium,
one of the lower cost of livings. We don't have a state income tax that you have to pay every year.
I wonder if that'll change. I wonder if in 10 years we're gonna.
I don't think I don't know.
I read an article earlier this week. I mean, Tennessee exceeded expected tax revenue.
Yeah, we've got that rainy day fund that they keep talking about.
And
but we've had that for a while though, so that's not necessarily a Republican thing.
Right.
I know
but
that
even with the pandemic going on, businesses shutting down, Tennessee still recouped a large number of taxes.
We're
collected a large number of taxes.
Well, and part of that, I mean, I don't know how much, and I'm sure some economist smarter than me could figure it out more specifically. But I mean, what did the average Tennessean get in stimulus package this year?
Would you say that's what majority of the taxes are coming from?
I wouldn't say the majority of it, but I'm saying I would argue that it's a good chunk. I mean, the joke of the Walmart joke that I know I told you guys about it is a picture of the main aisle in Walmart. It's like,
yes, everybody made that joke. Thanks. Yeah. Why don't you repeat the meme? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's a question on this face. Can I tell the story for the question?
Please.
I heard it already.
Okay, fine. All right.
I didn't hear it actually. I'm sorry. Sorry, Sam.
When the $600 checks were when it was signed off on, and we were waiting to get our $600 checks back in November, December, or whatever, there was a picture of the main aisle in Walmart, and it was all TVs for $550, $575 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was like Walmart's like, we see those $600 checks. Mm-hmm. And the joke is everybody's going to go buy TVs with them.
Okay.
Well, that's probably maybe everybody didn't go buy TVs with them, but people went and spent the money, and so
I don't think that's exclusive to Knoxville, though.
No, but I'm saying it's a state in state income tax or in state sales tax revenue. You know, I mean, what did we get the first round back in March?
I have no idea.
Because I want to say I got $3,500 for the household because I got mine and hers and the two kids, and then we got another. I think we got 500 a kid, so we got 2,200 from the second round or something like that. Anyway, I got $6 grand out of the sky.
Was it May or June?
Yeah, it wasn't March.
Whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
The federal stimulus stuff, and then spent that money, and so
it's still not exclusive to Tennessee though. So the slush fund or the rainy day fund that we were just talking about. I mean, you would think that Alabama would have one too. I mean,
I don't know about that. No, he was talking about the state has exceeded its sales tax revenue that it was projecting for 2020.
Not sales tax, just
it's tax revenue.
I don't know if it was broken down. Yeah, it was tax revenue,
which is mostly sales tax and then property tax.
Right. I would, but going by that logic, though, you would think that Alabama or Mississippi or California or whatever would do the same thing.
I don't know if they do or don't. But that's.
Yeah, apparently we've been one of the few states that's had like a.
I know the rainy day fund thing. We're pretty
balanced
budget.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Yeah, I think that's one of the special things to do. And I mean, and I've heard people argue about it.
We don't have state income tax. Sorry to cut you off. Imagine how much money we would have if we had a state income tax.
Well, I mean, the question is that, if the pandemic wasn't a rainy day, what is?
Right.
That's one of the questions that floats around. But then my response when people ask that is like, well, I know you have an answer to this, but what should we have spent? What should we have emptied the rainy day fund for right now?
Was that sarcasm? I have an answer to this?
No, I'm assuming, going to even...
You're shitting on me.
Oh. Well, he looked at me when he said it. So I guess it was passive-aggressive staring at me, but knowing he was actually talking to you.
No, I was...
we can't have video on this for anonymity purposes, but...
Apparently there's an app that will cartoonify everybody that we could do.
We're already there.
I'm just saying, like, visually cartoonify.
No. We are already there.
But...
I've had that technology for like 15 years.
Okay.
I like that we're shitting on him so far. This is good. This is a lighthearted shitting on Seth day. I like it. It's comfortable. It's like a new chair that we don't have.
Apparently, there's an app for that. Was that a surprise?
I was just okay. I forgot. Well, anyway,
On this thing called Instagram, there's what they call filters.
Rainy day fund.
I think he's trying to change the subject a little bit.
I mean, no, you both changed the subject on me because anyway.
No, it's the same subject.
What should we be spending the rainy day fund on? What should we have spent it on this year? To answer all those people who say this is a rainy day.
It was raining yesterday.
It was raining yesterday. It's true.
Let the floodgates open.
Okay.
I mean, I think that I think we should at least have some set aside, for natural disasters, things that we have to implement.
Which
I disagree.
I think a pandemic would fall under a rainy day.
Here's why I disagree with that. This circles back around to what him and I argued about, what Seth and I argued about months ago, which was if we have a natural disaster, we should be going and getting FEMA money, not state money. Because if other states are getting FEMA money and not using their money, either A, because they don't have it, or B, because they don't want to use it, I don't want to use that money. I don't want to use our money when we could be using federal money. We can still keep ours, is all I mean by that. I'd rather max out the FEMA money and then turn to our stuff, I guess, is really why I'm saying I don't want to use our...
Which is what we've done this year to some extent. Lee was talking about in the State of the State, like a lot of different stuff. The COVID money that the state got to use here and there and whatever made it so that this extra revenue that the state had didn't need to go to X, Y, or Z, and so they pushed it into growing the rainy day fund an extra $50 million or whatever they said it was. Every
positive COVID test that is received in a hospital, the COVID relief deal, you get $30,000. That particular hospital system gets for that patient. They get another $30,000 if they die.
We talked about this. Well, we talked about this in hypotheticals, and I'd heard something like that.
Did I say hypothetically?
I don't know if you said hypothetically or not, but I remember saying.
Trying to figure out if I need to walk something back or not.
No, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly.
It's relatively anonymous, but yeah. So 60. So if you walk in, you're positive, 30,000. You die 3 days later. It's 60 for you being there. Seems like a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, especially when you're looking at 500 plus in the county this year.
There's a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
How much is it costing the hospital?
I can't even begin to answer that. I mean,
would you go down the rabbit hole of I guess validating the conspiracy theories that hospitals are saying that these patients are COVID and they're only putting them down as COVID just to get that extra money?
No, because at least the way that
they would lose their medical license for signing.
Well, and the assumption is that the people that are in the fucking suits are the ones that are running the test. I mean, they're not. I mean, the people that are in suits are not running the fucking test. The people that are running the test are only making $11 an hour to run the fucking test. They don't have any motivation to lie about it. You know what I mean? So, if the CFO is personally down in the lab running tests, then sure. But I mean, if there's not any motivation whatsoever for just sort of a typical $40,000 a year employee to bullshit about that sort of thing, they don't get.
Well, the other question too is though, what is the CDC or FDA or FEMA or whoever's running the funds on this conversation? Mm-hmm. What verification are they requiring when a hospital system is submitting their case count?
Does it be listed as a primary cause of death or a secondary cause of death,
or even just a positive cases? Are they are they requesting copies of the tests, and how much information do they have to say that?
I would imagine that I think
these are the same people that gave out the PPP loans to everybody and their brother for very little effort and very little, and then forgave them. And the banks were basically incentivized to forgive them.
I think I read something somewhere that Tom Brady got one of those loans. Did you guys see this? You should look that up. Actually, he received some sort of loan. I don't know if it was for a boat or he got it for something. He got one of those whatever loans that you were referring to and bought a boat with it. I think it was a boat. He's on a couch. He's fucking around with something on a couch. For those of you that don't know what
the dog's doing dog shit.
That's right. Well, not dog shit, but
I mean, outside of COVID, there's always people that have found like these like little niche holes in the system of getting tax credits for this or that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is nothing new to American business.
Right. I mean, it's no different than tax loopholes, really, I would think. I mean, they exist.
We were just playing by the rules.
I mean, and in some ways, like, I don't have any issue with it. Like, is there a moral element to it? Maybe, but I mean, at the same time, if you can get it, why not?
NFL quarterback Tom Brady's sports performance and nutrition company received a PPP loan of $960,000 plus.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, it's a job.
And I can agree with that, but then I don't want to hear it when people bitch about, more regulations being put on certain things. It's like, well, that regulation is only in place because people were gaming the system. Like, sorry, we had to put another rule in place because you found that one little tiny hole.
Yeah.
It's interesting going back to a podcast I listened to. It was talking about, the early days of the, football basically, and how Pop Warner kept coming up with all these trick plays, and then at the end of every season, they were having to rewrite the rules of what you could and couldn't do. Because they were like, well, damn, we didn't think about that shit. Like, no, you can't do that either. Like, and you can't have a receiver ineligible go out of bounds and come back inbounds and still be an eligible receiver. And they're like, we didn't think anybody would fucking run off the sidelines and come back in and still be considered a regular player.
I don't know. I think that there are things that are buzzwords. I think things like regulation.
Right.
It's a buzzword that the right uses to sort of insinuate that the government is sort of wanting to control everything in somebody's life, and it's a person that's not looking into a topic hears the word regulation and they just think, oh God, the government's trying to control my life. And it's like, well, I'm sure that there's data out there, polling data that shows that if you use the word regulation, then and you attach that to somebody, then people are not going to want to vote for it. But if you call it something else other than regulation, it's like the buzzword itself is what gets the negative attention. Like I find it interesting. This is, I guess, we're jumping into politics here, but I find it interesting that if you listen to some of the Fox News of the world, they'll say things like the radical left. Well, that doesn't really tell me anything. It just means, as a person that's listening to that person say the radical left and using that phrase, the assumption is, wow, they must be really crazy. It's the radical left. Well, it's like, why don't the Democrats say the radical right? And like use that as like turn the word against the folks that they're trying to convince that it's actually not a good thing to do. Does that make sense? So I don't know. I hear regulation and I'm just like, I need to hear more than just the word regulation. Because the assumption is they're trying to tell businesses what to do. Well, we've been telling businesses what to do for a while now. Like we have OSHA. Like, is that not regulation? Like, is it shouldn't we label our bottles with like bleach or whatever it is? I mean, that's a regulation. You know what I mean? So like the idea itself is
it's gotten misconstrued as a bad thing.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that it's
that Clean Water Act? You like that clean water that you like to be able to drink. Like that was brought about by regulation.
Right. Do you want to live in Flint? Like, do you want every place to be Flint, Michigan? Because if you do, then okay, but we need to have regulation for that.
It didn't happen in my backyard. I don't give a shit.
I don't know. You got any thoughts on that?
I missed out, but yeah, he ate a pillow.
Ate a pillow, okay.
Yeah, he was. He gets nervous around you guys and starts chewing on stuff.
Does he just want attention?
I don't know. It's weird. I had a chew toy for him down here, and
he's got a chew toy. It's the pillow.
Yeah.
Does he eat it?
He's pulled the stuffing out of it. It's trash now. But anyway,
you really need to get that couch.
How does that help with what we're talking about?
Because he could chew on some leather. It still has tags on it. I just never took the tags off. Oh, yeah, that pillow's fucked.
Yeah. He's destroyed it.
He'll get distracted at some point. Or he'll eat it, and you'll take him to the emergency vet.
Nope. I'll bury him in the yard like the other dog.
Oh, Chamberlain.
Yeah. I know we might have to move him.
Why?
Because the fucking drain line might have to run through where he is.
Do you have him in a box, or do you just throw his carcass in the ground?
He's just in the ground. He's gone. He's gone at this point. There might be some bones left in there, but probably not even that.
Surprised you didn't even put him in a box.
Straight to the ground.
Okay.
That's how I'm going.
I don't think that's legal. There's regulation for that.
I don't know. That's on my my new business list. I want to do a natural cemetery.
Okay.
I have to find out. I have to look into the regulations on that.
I found it kind of odd, but I can respect it. Both my grandparents got cremated and literally put into an almost kind of like, baking dish. It was like capped and sealed, and that's what got buried.
Bailey is still in, when I had her cremated, her box is still at the house.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, we got the death real quick.
Yeah, like a dork.
My grandparents still had like burial plots, with tombstones and everything, like in a cemetery.
Huh.
But we were literally there like burying, like a cooking pot.
Burying some
I don't know. So, like, if you have a limited, so if you have a limited amount of real estate and you have it's a cemetery, how do you pay for upkeep? Like, I really don't know that.
There is like some special exemption and shit like that, because like you get into there's like state parks that have like that envelop them, like, and there's like just like an old like family plot that's in the back of what used to be some farmland or something like that, that a park spot. And
Well, they have that like that's at Imes. They have a
yeah,
but like in the places that are not like Imes, and it's like say 20 acres or 50 acres of dead people.
I mean, you just sit there. I don't think. I mean,
Eventually though, that you just say, well, it's 75 years in the future, and nobody knows these people anymore. So
I don't know.
what do you do?
I think they sit there. There's one.
Well, of course they sit there, but like lawn service, like who cuts the grass?
I mean, there's one little old cemetery. I think it used to be a church cemetery in Powell. That when they put that new road in, it runs like right next to it, but it kind of curves around it.
Mm-hmm.
But they've been like clearing and developing all this stuff, and there's just this patch of trees, and there's like a little tiny fence, like 1.5 foot tall fence around this patch of trees, and you can see a couple headstones still in there.
I imagine it's probably one of those things that you have to put it in the legal notices in the newspaper.
I don't know.
I was like, hey, this is getting ready to be done. If anybody objects to this, just like, something being going in foreclosure or something, and somebody able to buy it, you have to put out, public notice. Like my roommate, whenever he was like filing like for a lost title,
mm-hmm.
you have to put something in for a certain amount of time, in the paper, of asking people like, hey, is this?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no response, I guess that gives you grounds that you at least tried to reach out and find anybody that, like, hey, we're getting ready to, annex this section of Powell. If you have an issue with it, let us know. And they're like, oh yeah, my great uncle is buried there. Like, no, you can't put a road over where he's buried.
See, I
don't know if that's where you have to put out a public notice.
I think a graveyard is an exception to that, though. I don't think they can.
You mean eminent domain wise?
Yeah, I don't think they can go through it with public notice. I would wager that at minimum, if it's required for a major project or something like that they have to do it, they probably have to move it.
If it's established, but if it was an unknown kind of burial ground.
I don't know.
There was some chatter for the longest time about like the fact that we have 640 here in Knoxville is ridiculous. Anyway, there should be like a 375 that connects 75 before 40 hits to 75 north, like Merchants, Callahan. That way you can bypass downtown Knoxville altogether. There was chatter years ago about doing that, but there's so much farmland up there that eminent domain wouldn't allow for it.
Yeah.
Which I get, but at the same time, you would think that they would have already done that here in Knoxville. Like, if you're going 75 north, there's no reason in the world why you can't just connect 75, like Sweetwater 75, to Callahan.
Right out there at Watt Road.
Right.
Where the split is.
Right.
And it just 75 goes straight north.
Right.
And then curves around through. Yeah, because it could chunk into Oak Ridge. It split the difference between Oak Ridge and that. I mean,
yeah.
I remember hearing plans about it and stuff like that, and it always just kind of fell.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Like 275 is not really much of a bypass. Like you're literally in the middle of downtown before they're like, oh, you want to go around downtown?
Yeah, same thing with 640. I don't know. Like, why did we even? Like, it was supposed to be a bypass around downtown. That's it. I mean, hell,
Pillissippi was supposed to be too, and then it ran into shit down in Blount County and couldn't keep going. Like 640 was supposed to go down past Alcoa Highway and then all the way around and then up.
640?
No, 140.
140.
Was supposed to go and then come back up in like Straw Plains or something like that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because when we first moved to Knoxville, they had just finished Pellissippi, like connecting Alcoa with Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a good idea, obviously, but I mean, all we're doing now is just expanding the roads in on 40. Like I don't know how we got into this. We were talking about dead people, but
right. And then the giant Alcoa project, that's Alcoa Highway project right now.
Yeah, my parents live off of that. It's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
I haven't even tried to see it.
I
I
have
heard
to do it a
two
couple
people like talk about it, but I haven't driven down it in a while.
Yeah,
It's been a fun test of my cruise control.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of neat. Like my cruise control, I can hit start on it, and
Mm-hmm.
then like on the little stick, if I can go up, and it'll actually go 1, 2, 3, 4. Like every time I kick it, it'll go 1 mile an hour faster or slower.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got like active radar thing, and so I can set how far I want to be behind the car in front of me. Look
at you and your fancy car.
I don't have like lane correction, but I have lane warning.
Yeah.
Like it does. Like it won't put
It shakes the wheel.
Yeah.
Or shakes
no,
the
it just
steering wheel.
it beeps at me. It doesn't do
Oh.
anything. It just beeps and tells me I'm going out of my lane.
When I was driving back from Portland, and I think I've talked about this a bunch, but there's sections of the interstate that doesn't have a speed limit. Other sections of the interstate that's like 80 miles an hour. Like, holy shit, this is wonderful.
Yeah,
80 miles an
Max
hour,
said
no
he had a
guiding.
great time with you. He
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
he talked a lot, but it was okay.
He's chatty.
Yeah, he was
I
drinking.
heard about like parts of Montana or Wyoming that had unregulated speed limits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to drive in, and it's beautiful too, for that matter. I don't know how the hell we got into this.
Yeah, I don't either. We were talking about regulations is where we started, and we just kind of wandered off in the rabbit hole of, old graveyards, and then became road projects and whatever. Biggs was talking about when he was in here that they're doing something. I can't remember what road it was, but it's something on the north side of 40 that they're basically it's a locals bypass to get it so that we locals don't need to use 40 to get from here to there.
Where's it at?
It's supposed to be from, I want to say you said Shod Road, but I don't think that's right. But yeah, it's basically something that goes through Carnes and then up into like Powell Halls through that side, so that we kind of have a north of 40 Kingston Pike kind of deal. I don't know, but he was excited about that because, like, again, it's one of those things. Like whenever I do interviews with commissioners and stuff, it's like all I ever hear about is Board of Health, and now it's been sidelined until April, and then baseball took over. What else is going on? And that was one of the things that he was talking about going on. And, that was what brought up the 200,000+ people going in when I had Larson on, because I was like, what are we doing? Like, what's the plan? And so.
Isn't that really like the foundation of what you're really trying to say, is that there's a lot of stuff going on, and so we have a limited amount of time in our 24-hour period to put our attention on it, and we have to assume that the people that are calling the shots on that are competent and,
Right, which is why I lied about the drone thing. I was wrong. I didn't lie. I conflated it, and then was told I was right, and then I ran with it, and it turns out I was wrong.
Could you elaborate?
Yeah. So the last county commission meeting, it was item like 301-1 was. Did
you make that up?
I'm guessing at it. I could look it up specifically, but
I'm kidding. I'm just joking.
Well, because so the problem I have, and going with what you're saying, is that there's so much shit going on, and there's such little bandwidth and attention paid, especially locally. So it was Monday morning. I had a couple of interviews lined up Monday morning. Get the kids to school, sitting down, watching the Fox News morning, not cable Fox, local Fox. So it's WBIR on Fox, local morning news thing, where it's that 5-7 minute like repeat cycle where it's the weather, traffic, a little bit of sports, and then one little news item, and then repeat, and then they switch a couple little categories out or whatever. And so this was the Monday of the Board of Health meeting. It was the second reading for the Board of Health. So it was the Monday of the commission meeting. It was the second reading of the Board of Health. Whatever. If they passed it, then that kills the Board of Health and all the kind of bullshit that goes along with that. And so I'm watching the news, and they're like, hey, the commission meeting's tonight. Board of Health thing's on it. And I was like, that's it? It's the whole meeting? And so I pulled the agenda up, and I'm reading through the agenda, and it's like 50-something items on the agenda, and a lot of it's little stuff. And one of the things I learned with my interview with that is that anytime the county receives anything, it has to have commission approval.
This is the drone thing. This is where you're getting
right. It. And so I'm going through it and I'm reading it, and then this 301-1 or whatever is Knox County Sheriff's Office wants to buy an aeronautics electronics kit, I think is what the term was, from the Department of Defense for $17-something thousand. And so the real part that I learned in the conversation is Sheriff's Office has a total limit. Their budget is, they present their budget every year, and then it's approved by the commission, and then pretty much they do whatever they want unless they want to spend over X. And if it's over X, it has to have commission approval, or if it is less than valued. So it's essentially like $30,000 worth of stuff they're buying, but they're only paying 17, so that 13,000 is considered a gift, so the commission has to vote on it. So that part is the reality that I did learn that was true. I don't know what an aeronautics electronics kit is, And so I asked the commissioner I had on later that day, is that a drone or something? He said yes, and then we moved on in conversation. And I was like, holy shit, sheriff's office is buying a drone. At the same time, which is actually truly happening, Massey has introduced a bill in state legislature changing how law enforcement in the state of Tennessee is allowed to use a drone. And so I was like, it's interesting the timing of this. That sounds reasonable that the sheriff knew something and Massey introduced the thing, and they're kind of, and so it turns out it was not actually a drone kit that they were buying. It was some repair shit for some of the helicopters we already have.
Helicopters.
Right.
Not drones.
Right.
People are in them.
Well, it's right. It's repair kits for helicopters we already own. Yes.
Again, though, repair kits for helicopters that people are physically inside that they drive.
I don't
Fly.
know. Right. I assume as much, yes.
Okay. Because it could be a device that we currently own that we don't fly yet, and they're unmanned, which would be a drone.
Right. But no, I believe they're like, it's like some standard helicopter that we've got like 5 of. The county has 5 of already. Doesn't matter. I mean, I was incorrect in stating that the sheriff's office was buying a drone. But it doesn't change the drone conversation in the state with the Massey bill that is changing the way drones can. So any public space, the Massey bill would make it so that any law enforcement can use a drone in any public space at any time. And the big part of it changes that they have 3 days to review the footage. And if they find something, they can use it. And then when it's attached to something, they can hold on to it. But after 3 days, they have to delete it. The Massey bill would make it 30 days. And so some poor deputy is going to just sit and watch hours and hours and hours of video whenever the drone's up. And if they catch you smoking pot in the corner of a music festival, they can use that drone footage.
I think it goes that far. I think it's more of like holding it on to it for that amount of time for them to be able to look back and be like, oh, let's look at something that happened 2 weeks ago. I highly doubt they've got someone just sitting there watching 24/7.
Well, when I have Spangler in here, I'll ask him.
The skeptic in me is more inclined to believe that what Seth is saying is probably more accurate. Only because
if we had something like CCTV that the city of London and other countries have. Yes, they do have people monitoring those 24/7 probably.
My concern is that even if we don't do it now, we would do it at some point. And I am 100% against the surveillance state.
Right, and that's the reality. That's the real conversation to be had. Is that
right.
It's just we had the Patriot Act in 2001 that keeps getting re-upped and re-upped and re-upped and re-upped, and we have a new thing and another thing and a new thing,
right?
And it's just another,
We get back to that debate of like how much privacy do we want to give away for that feeling of protection.
Which is funny because for the most part, all of us have electronic devices that can pinpoint exactly where we are at any given time anyhow.
True.
So I guess the counter to that would be, well, if that's, if you're against the surveillance state, then why don't you have a flip phone?
Well, there's a difference in.
If
I don't disagree.
If you're not doing anything wrong, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
That's horseshit.
And according to my lawyer, fuck you, it's none of your business is the appropriate reply to that statement.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we had this. I don't know if it was last time we were talking about the illegal sniff. Like, so if you don't have probable cause, if you're an officer and you don't have probable cause to look inside of a vehicle, you can call in a canine unit, and if they smell it, that's probable cause. So
right.
it's illegal to search it. It's not illegal to sniff it, which is fucked up. I don't like either one of them. Illegal searches or illegal sniffs, or I don't have it. I don't like that at all. I really don't.
Yeah, there's been debate whether or not those canine trainers have been able to kind of like signal their dog, because usually like the dog will like sit down or whatever their kind of signal is of like, hey, I smelled something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it goes to the stupid phrasing of it, but it's who's watching the watcher.
Yeah.
Who is? I mean, your example being, some shitty canine handler who's gets called out to a scene because his buddy's out there, and he's like, I know they got some shit going on here, and he's like, okay, and he brings the dog out and goes, and the dog does whatever, and he's like, see, that's a signal, and now we're going through and doing whatever the fuck we want, but who oversees that? How many people out there, which they're in canine units, there's probably a good number, but how many people out there know specifically that dog and how that dog responds to certain things in that relationship? Nobody.
Right.
Even in the general terms, how many people actually know what handlers do and how that interaction goes correctly, let alone scamming on it? So it's to me, it's always that if you always lean on less. Like the general answer should be less, unless you have a very specific known. I have a mountain of reasons why this is the way we should do this thing, especially when it comes to privacy. Unless you have something very strong and specific, which is what a warrant is supposed to be, what they used to be. If you don't have that there, then you lean on the side of it's none of your fucking business. Mm-hmm. And that's where the start is. And that was the interesting thing talking to Jamie last week about it. It's like we used to live in this innocent until proven guilty. That's supposed to be one of our core elements of our society. But that's not true anymore. It hasn't been true for a while, and it's just, to me, it's getting worse and worse and worse. Both the social part of it, but just the true legal side of it.
I think it was a couple of years ago, the EU or a bunch of European nations passed kind of like internet security laws that basically you have the right to privacy. You have the right to privately peruse the internet as you choose. I don't think the U.S. has ever adopted anything close to what Europe has.
But the difference there is that is a voluntary, even though you don't read the fucking thing, that was a voluntary givings over. But that shouldn't give KPD or whomever, for example, the right to go to Facebook and ask for my data. If Facebook wants to use my data to sell ads or something like that, I agree to that. And it may be deep in there, but I don't think when it goes out of the private relationship between me and Facebook to a public entity, as in the government, police department, shit like that, that's where I draw the line. Like, I understand that, yes, I'm carrying around a homing beacon, for lack of a better word, mm-hmm. but that homing beacon's only allowed to be used by the person I agreed with it with, which would be my cell provider and the apps that I use on there. And none of the apps that I use on there are KPD, Knox County Sheriff's Office, whatever.gov is not an app that I use. So they don't have a right to my data without my permission. That's where the line is to me.
I don't disagree with that. I just...
That's where they've kind of done a runaround and gone to those, ad agencies, whoever have access to that data.
Right, and that's shady government shit. That's doing shady government shit. And that's what's not okay.
I mean, that's what was passed, 19 years ago.
What?
With the Patriot Act.
Right. No, I agree. That's where it's like that's not where it started. It started before that, but that's where I started on it. It's like Patriot Act went in, and it's been a much quicker downhill into.
And it's not gonna change.
Right.
I mean, it's just not the genie's out of the bottle. You're not gonna put him back in.
I mean, that's anything in this kind of realm of conversation. You don't get rights back, barely ever.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I can. There are times that I can understand the like very red states like the Wyomings and the Montanas of the world that don't want their areas to turn into the New York Cities and LAs of the world that have a ton of crime and I don't know what I'm really trying to say here. I can appreciate the fact that there seems to be a I don't know what I'm trying to say. It seems to be there was an easier way to live, and the current sort of modern world is lost in a lot of those folks. It hasn't permeated the landscape of the Wyomings and the Idahos and the Montanas of the world. And I mean, the unfortunate thing is they think that the Republicans are the ones that can keep their
right. They're
right. And
neither are any good at this particular subject.
Correct. It's just that the rhetoric from the right is easier to swallow for those folks than some of the rhetoric on the left.
Yeah, for sure.
Surprisingly enough, and bringing up Wyoming, since Seth the text that I had been kind of curious to see, if every single state in the U.S. had broken down, if we kind of stuck to the electoral college as far as each state having a certain amount of electoral votes, but we actually divided each state by the percentage of who voted for whatever party. And I think Wyoming was damn near like 65-35 or 70-30 as far as, Republican over Democrat in the majority. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the most non-split state. But otherwise, I think if I did the math right, Biden would have essentially won by like 2 or 3 electoral votes.
Yeah, you said like 270 to 268 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was damn near close if I did the math right. I mean, some of it was, doing a little bit of rounding up and rounding down as far as percentage-wise, when a state has like 6 votes and it's 55-45 or whatever. It's kind of like, well, shit, which one?
I wonder, so if you're a Republican right now, and this is exactly going on right now, which is why the Lindsey Grahams of the world were against the impeachment. But if you're in the Republican Party right now, you essentially are looking at the second most, well, let's just say the most. You received the most votes you've ever had, ever, from a candidate for your party. So Trump has given you the blueprint on how to get the most votes ever. And if you deviate from that blueprint, you're going to get less votes, likely, than you would have if you have a game plan that's not Trump's game plan. So the sort of very racial undertones, the sort of aggressive way of getting on Twitter and handling things, essentially you're telling yourself, this is what I need to do in order to get elected. Because if you try to be a Republican from the 90s, you're not going to get 75 million votes.
I mean, I agree with you on that. I maybe this is something you should write out, because I'd like to see what your thought is that is the Trump game plan specifically, because I think there's parts of it. I think I think there's parts of it that sells well to me personally. Like, I think the woke culture shit is problematic, and I enjoy the fact that he shits all over it. I think it's hard to, we have this the trans MMA thing. She fought last weekend. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't keep up with MMA.
It's I always forget the correct verb. It's a trans woman. She was a male for like 30 something years. She transitioned, and she's beating the fuck out of girls in MMA fights. And it's the whole kind of like, it's Tennessee's House Bill number 3.
It's only like one person.
Right,
I think I had heard of that story. Yeah, it has happened in the Tennessee now.
all right,
I think that did
Tennessee
just get passed.
House Bill 3 that Tennessee's working on, or was just passed or whatever, is to basically, if you're in high school, you have to, if you want to be in sports in high school, you have to compete in the sport bracket that you were born in.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that that's a. I do not agree that that's a Trump way and only a Trump way. I think that there would be some moderate or conservative Democrats that would say there's something that just doesn't feel right about a biological male.
But my point in bringing that up, though, is that and maybe to agree with you to some extent, that the overzealous rage version of it that is Trump was part of the sales pitch. But the shit like that we get in the news, like that story in the news, and we're supposed to, like, apparently the MMA one, like, she was like female athlete of the year from some publication. I don't know if it was one of any real clout or whatever, but it's like female athlete of the year. You got not Caitlyn Jenner. Who's the
Bruce?
It's not.
What's Bruce?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy who was the woman of the year in Time Magazine or whatever. And you got that shit permeating through, and then you have a candidate like Trump that's like, this is fucking dumb. Why are we listening to this? Why are you guys putting up with this? I think that sells. Maybe the question is whether the attitude of it or the actual sentiment of it is the more valued part from the listener.
I think it's the attitude, because I think the sentiment is going to be I don't believe that if you ask George W. Bush whether or not he's for that or not, he's probably going to be against that. Otherwise, we would have had gay marriage before Obama. So I don't think. I think it's more than that. It's more than just whether or not somebody's biologically a male or a female and whether they're competing or not. Like, I get the spirit of what you're saying. I'm not trying to disagree with that necessarily. I just think that the bravado and the not striking down on racial tones, that sort of stuff sells to that base. And I'm not saying all 75 million of those people that voted for Trump are all closet racist, but it helped a lot of them get to the poll.
Didn't he have? I don't know if this is the right one. Trump had more. He had a higher percentage of the black vote this time than he did the first time.
He also had less of the military vote.
I'm saying, like, because I know the military
also had more vote in general. I mean, I don't. Was it a percentage wise?
I mean,
of African American vote, or was it just a general number? Because on both sides of the aisle, both had larger numbers than they'd ever seen.
Right.
I'm just throwing out the premise of if it's his racial.
I'm just wondering what stat you're talking about.
I don't have it printed off. I apologize. You
gotta print this shit off.
I know, because I knew exactly. I knew we were going to talk about this at some point tonight.
Well, again, though, I just think it's interesting that I think the only reason why I say Lindsey Graham because Lindsey Graham will be running for president 2024. It's the only reason why he's been in Trump's back pocket the entire time that Trump has been in office, and why he's still backing him now. He knows that in 3.5 years, 3 years, he's going to be campaigning, and he wants to be the president. And if he's against Trump, somebody else won't be, and he'll have to figure out a way to get those votes in 2024. I mean, there's just not a way to win the primary.
I mean, I follow what you're saying as far as, the blueprint idea. I'm just curious if there's a...
I mean, you're talking about a checklist? We can start a checklist.
Well, no, I'm just curious if there's...
No, I mean, I'm serious. I mean, I think we could.
Well, but it'd be how do we...
You're against abortion.
Right.
You're 100% against abortion. You claim that you're pro-military, whether you're not or not. I mean, I would argue that Trump wasn't, actually. I mean, you don't say shit like you do to John McCain and be pro-military. Sorry.
I know. Okay.
You also don't make up bone spurs as an excuse to not go to the military. I like that's really not a thing. But again, you just need to be accepted to be. It needs to be the perception needs to be that you're pro-military. So the perception also needs to be that you're pro-abortion. Pro-family value.
So for the proving the point though is for pro-military, he approved the largest increase in Department of Defense budget in like 100 years.
That doesn't.
That was his idea.
That also doesn't mean you're pro-military.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care how much money you throw at it. Doesn't mean you're pro-military. You could cut spending in the military and put it in. You could cut areas and do other things in the military and still be pro-military. So just throwing money at it doesn't mean you're pro-military. All of that is perception. So you need the perception of it, but that's not that doesn't encompass it.
Okay.
So you need to be pro-military. You have to be adamantly against abortion, at least the perception of that. You need to be relatively okay with not coming down on I can't remember the name of that organization, but the racial organizations that you have good people on both sides. You have to be able to toe that line, almost to accept racism as a part of the platform that you're running in. You have to do that to a certain extent. You can't remove those folks from the equation.
Right.
You can almost never apologize and say that you're wrong about things.
I think that's I agree with you. I'm just saying I think that's part of the social game right now too, though.
What do you mean?
Like I think when you get into any of the cancel culture shit that's going on, as soon as you apologize, it gets worse.
But it doesn't have to be.
I'm not disagreeing with the base point of your statement. I was just
Well, I think you are.
What gets worse?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you are disagreeing with it because it actually doesn't get worse. It actually gets better for you, really. Like if you fuck something up and you just say, yeah, sorry guys, I messed that up, but goddamn it, I'm not going to fuck it up again. It seems like you're stronger in that situation.
Okay.
And I just think that you have to have a particular mindset that says this motherfucker's not going to take any shit from anybody. Well, no, that's not what it means. It just means you're an idiot. You're not going to admit you're wrong. And so again, that's just the perception that you're some hard ass. You're not a hard ass. In a lot of ways, you're weak because you can't admit that this didn't work out. And so you have to have that. That's another one of the checklists that you've got to have.
Okay.
Humility.
Yeah, humility is not on the checklist.
Right. The inverse of humility is the checklist.
Right. You absolutely cannot have that, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me whatsoever, because a lot of these folks are allegedly Christians. You would think that, that's thrown out the window completely.
And to push back a little on that particular one, maybe not in the Trump's form of it's a little different, but I think that's a standard operating procedure for most high level politicians.
What do you mean?
The salon owner told me I didn't have to wear a mask, and that's why I was in there without a mask.
I don't know what your point is. What's your point?
I'm just saying, like a Nancy Pelosi, a Mitch McConnell, a Trump, anybody else that they don't the admittance of having done something wrong, that was fucking creepy. Mm-hmm. Cat just opened the door. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the admitting that you did something wrong is not a politician move in general. That was my point.
I mean, I don't know if I mean, I'm sure we could look up the times that Obama said that he should have done something and he didn't.
Okay.
I'm serious. Like I don't know of any time that Trump ever said that he did anything wrong ever.
I agree with you for sure.
So I'm pushing back on the fact that it's simply a politician's move, because I mean, again, I think we could look this up and find. I mean, I can. I don't think that it's necessarily a politician's move. I think it's a Trump move. I think this is the Trump, essentially the Trump checklist to get 75 million votes. And if you follow this checklist and you have a weak Democrat, not a weak as in somebody that's not strong. I mean, a weak candidate, somebody that can get voted in, like a perception-wise at least, like a Hillary Clinton. If you have a Hillary Clinton that's running in the primary in 2024, let's just say that Joe Biden dies or something, then that's your blueprint. You just don't. You have these checklists of things that Trump brings to the table, and the sad thing is though, it's not necessarily a. It's not a politics. It's not a issues party. It doesn't seem to be. It doesn't seem to be something that is substantial for you as a citizen. I don't know what you gain out of that.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm trying to look up Trump or Obama apologies, and I think I've found probably the inverse of the example we're looking for.
I mean, if we look, I'm sure it's there.
Yeah, this is from the Heritage Foundation, and it says Barack Obama's top 10 apologies: how the president has humiliated a superpower. Anyway, I was trying to look up what you're asking for.
The Heritage Project?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Heard the name.
June 2nd, 2009.
We gonna look that up? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know. I was doing it while you were talking about stuff.
I mean, I'm not being shitty. I'm just saying, are we looking it up? I mean, I think you get my point. Is that
okay.
It's easier to find something that Obama is critiquing himself overdoing than Trump critiquing something that he's done, because if you have a conversation with him, he's done everything 100% correctly, every time, all the time.
Right. I follow for sure.
So think of something else. You have to have some sort of this "Make America Great Again." This MAGA stuff is again a throwback to times when it seems like a veiled attempt to say that the times before gay marriage and the times before we accepted things for
when home X degrees meant something. Yeah, I know.
We can talk about that if you want to. It's the second time we brought this up. I'm happy to have that conversation.
I was just talking the olden days when.
I
when
think
women only went to college to find a husband.
I agree. I mean, they're a large part of the population, that kind of feels that nostalgia for the older times, and I think that was just kind of playing on that sentiment. It's like, make America great again. 'Cause a lot of people feel like, oh, we could be better. It's not bad to have that ideal that we can be better than what we are at this moment.
Right, but if you, I
it's
agree.
Always looking to better yourself.
I agree,
you should always be looking to better yourself.
If you're not condemning racism, then you're not making America great. Period. So, if that's the case, and it's clear that he never, ever was against racism, came out and that, what was it, Charlottesville? If he had brought the hammer down at Charlottesville, then I'd be like, okay, well, he's not talking about a MAGA where, things were actually going to be better for Americans in general. I think that it's a veiled attempt to say we want to make things better for white people. Like I don't know how anybody can get around that. I really don't. I think that's the blueprint. You don't need the black vote.
I mean, mathematically, you're right.
So, if that's the case, then who cares? Really, all you need are you need all of the rural areas outside of big towns, and a few of the middle class folks that are in those white towns, large white towns, to vote for you, and then you get 75 million, and hope that you're going against a weak candidate, or you paint them into a corner like that they're unelectable, or they are weak on some area like foreign policy or something, and you win, which is sad. I mean, we don't talk about issues then.
Right. Which, again, I would argue has been...
Sure, I'm not saying that, but there were points where we actually had debates where we talked about issues. I mean, it's not that long ago we actually had debates that talked about issues. We don't talk about issues.
I agree.
And it's sad. I guess really that's all I'm saying is that it does seem like right now, this very moment, things could change in a year. Who knows? It just seems like right now the Republican Party is only interested in those sets of things to get them in office.
Yeah, and right, yeah, and the blueprint makes sense.
I mean,
Not,
that turned
not logically,
into like
but
probably
functionally.
one of the biggest hashtags is MAGA, Make America Great Again. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
You got people that are voting for him that don't really understand what that means.
Yeah.
I mean, or they do, and it's worse. So like they understand. Oh, okay. Well, then let's get rid of these Negroes and these fags. Let's get rid of them too. And we just want to go back to the nuclear family that didn't really ever exist except on Leave It to Beaver when we watch television.
But a lot of it, in his supporters' mind, played the fact that I came into this administration with an empty cupboard, and the military was nothing and in disrepair. It's like, seriously, you took over office and the military was shit until you came in and quote unquote fixed it. Like, how was the military failing?
I mean, I've heard from a couple. I've heard from a couple podcasts that like Rogan's had a couple of different like special forces guys and stuff like that they very much enjoyed Trump as commander in chief.
For what reason?
Because they were allowed to do what they were supposed to do.
What does that mean?
They from the way it was from the way described is that Trump let them do their job. And
I understand.
He didn't become part of it. He didn't put in special parameters and this, that, and others. The goal is to go do X, and you do it the way you need to do it.
I mean, but come on. Like, we flew 2 helicopters into a sovereign nation, didn't tell them we were showing up. We assassinated bin Laden, which we should have done. And we got the fuck out of there before really anybody knew we were even there. And we're going to have some statement that Trump is going to let us do what we're going to do. I mean, like, Obama greenlighted us, again, flying in helicopters into a sovereign nation, landing on their soil, going into a house, killing people, which, again, I'm okay with. But, like, let's not paint... I'm not saying you were doing it, but let's be careful with some of the... Not you, whoever's saying this. Let's be careful that we're not advocating that Obama was some... well, we're going to follow the rules here, guys. We're gonna let them know that we're coming. Come on, that's bullshit.
I'm just passing along what I hear.
That may be what you're hearing, but if it would have got out that Obama had the chance to go get bin Laden, but we screwed it up because we were trying to make sure that everything was done in a international legal ease type of thing, then okay, I'm with you. But like, it's hard pressed for me to think that Trump just sort of said, hands off, do what you need to do, go be a killing machine. And yet that is a very large example of at least one thing that we know about, at least, that Obama was okay with doing. Like, that's
the thing with like special forces and that those type of covert activities is
you don't ever know about them.
Exactly.
For a reason. So I don't know this guy, and he knows more about this stuff than I do because he's in it. But like, he's gonna have to give me some specifics because, again, if the UK sent a damn helicopter over here to Boston, like their helicopter, and went into an apartment complex and drugged somebody out and assassinated some people while they were there, or killed them, forget about it. I'm not trying to use rhetoric and using assassinate as a rhetorical device. But if they did that, we would go to war. So Obama did that. I mean, he should have. I want to make sure I stress that. I'm okay with it. But, like, come on. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I just didn't care for, like, the rhetoric of just, like, essentially, like, shitting on the military as if the military was nothing before he came in.
Yeah, I don't like that
just
either.
goes to my dislike of his total, just kind of, like, grandiose rhetoric of anything.
I mean, he didn't fix it because we're still in the same fucking wars that he started with.
Greatest
Sure.
of anything.
He was right. We don't win anything.
NASA was nothing before I came in, and which I'll agree, like, for many years, we didn't fucking send up a shuttle.
Assuming that's the measuring stick
we caught a ride. We were essentially hitchhiking with the Russians.
Right. But again, that's assuming that putting a rocket ship on the moon is a measuring stick for success. I mean, I don't know what success is in that realm, but it's just it's horseshit. It's fucking horseshit, and people eat that shit up. Like, oh my God, that fucking Negro didn't give money to the military. That white man, he'll do it. He's a businessman. He's rich. He's had more women than anybody. He's my guy. Like, that's how folks vote for him. Like that's it. Like that's the Republican Party. That's the problem I have. I don't have an issue with like the Mitt Romneys of the world. I have philosophical differences with him, but I don't have any like. I think he's a genuine person. Like, it's all smoke and mirrors with that motherfucker. All of it is. It's all smoke and mirrors. Maybe it's smoke and mirrors with a lot of them. It's more smoke and mirrors with that motherfucker than any of the other ones that I can remember.
Okay.
I think it goes back. I mean, I understand that the president is a politician. You should be able to take him at his word. I know everybody knows that politicians lie, but you should be able to take a politician at their, or you should be able to take the president at their word.
Yeah.
I understand you're a politician up until then, but once you take that oath of office, you are our president. We should be able to take you at your word.
Yeah, I mean.
But time and time again, we haven't been able to do that.
Right. But he still had 75 million people vote for him.
Okay, so what's the solution here?
What's the problem? Tell me what the problem is. I'll try to offer a solution.
Well, the problem is the blueprint works.
That is a problem. I mean, it goes back to everything that we've talked about here. We need to have a better educated public. But again, there's not a whole lot of time in our day to do anything except for listen to sound bites. And it's really funny. Like, if you go to a lot of doctors' offices, most places you go to, Fox News is on. And, like, at the end of the day, I don't know if anybody that would argue that Fox News is anything other than an arm of the Republican Party.
I agree.
Which Trump himself turned his back on.
Which is hysterical.
I agree.
I mean that he may be his own. He may be the solution to himself. I mean the implosion that happened, and we'll see where it goes. I mean I think Twitter and Facebook and all them banning him was a problem. Not because
a problem.
Yeah, not because
because he was banned.
Yeah, I think you let him continue to spout off the stupid past the fact, and at some point people are gonna be like, okay, Jesus Christ, okay.
Well, they did for years. They suspended and actually they didn't do suspending, but they would started like taking off some of his tweets or putting like little factoids in this, like, this has not been verified by Twitter or whatever. Right. Tried that over and over again, like, this goes against our policies.
I think he absolutely should. He should have been. He should have been kicked off of that a long time ago.
I know. I mean, I'm not.
Most social media is like warn you over and over and
from
over
the rules
and over again.
From the rules they set forth, sure, but from the grand political scheme and stuff like that, I think because your MSNBCs and your CNNs and stuff like that, they're going to continue to tell everybody how stupid Trump was.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe now that Trump started shitting on Fox News before he got turned off, Fox News might start shitting on him.
That's not going to happen.
But that's the point, is that at what point, like, when the devices for educating the public on it are either known against him, and if you're a Trumper, you don't listen to CNN, or when you hear a CNN soundbite, oh, that's bullshit, whether it's true or not,
mm-hmm.
And then the Fox News is continuing to support his stances on shit,
mm-hmm.
and especially now that we don't get to hear directly from him anymore he has avenues, obviously, but we don't get to hear his Twitter feed anymore, where the masses get to actually see it and go, okay, this guy's retarded.
That's not going to happen, though.
He
he was there for 4 years. I mean, he was yelling fire in a fucking crowded theater for 4 years.
But I don't see shutting him up as fixing it either. I guess is my point. I like, how do we? Again, what's the solution?
Well, I think that actually is a part of the solution, is shutting him the fuck up like that. Again, if he wanted to have a press release every day where he comes out in front of the cameras, there'd be cameras there for him every day. So it's not you're not removing speech from the equation. It's a fucking stupid argument. He was the president of the United States when he lost the election. He was still the president of the United States when his fucking Twitter feed was turned off. So he still could have gotten in front of the cameras, and everybody in the world would have listened. Mm-hmm. So it's a bullshit argument that it's a removal of free speech. That is. I'm not saying you said that. I'm just saying that there have been people that have said that. That's horseshit, first of all.
He's been silenced.
He has not been silenced. He's been silenced from his favorite way of speaking. Yes. He has not been silenced from his only way of speaking. That is not correct. What was the second thing I was going to say? Where are we at?
We're looking for
solutions. Solving the $75 million problem, 75 million vote problem.
How do we get the point across that this mistake was a mistake? We survived, and we're moving forward.
I think it's helpful to have news shows that are not motivated exclusively by marketing and advertisers. I think that's helpful. Because Fox News would never push against Trump, because if they did, they lose their viewership. So there's no motivation to have any sort of capital T truth with Fox News, any sort of fair and balanced anything. Because if you start pushing back on him, then he gets a hold of Murdoch, which happened like a day or 2 or 3. We can look this up. Several days after the election, when Fox News said that they called the election for Biden, Trump called Murdoch and said, "You can't fucking do this. Stop doing this shit." Like, that conversation happened. It's problematic when the president of the United States is actually able to call the person that owns a news agency and tell them what they should be reporting on.
I agree.
That's a fucking problem.
That is a huge problem. I mean, but it persists. It wasn't just a Trump thing.
What do you mean?
I mean, the new press secretary or whatever, she came straight out of CNN or one of them. Like, that's where she was before this.
Well, so there you're arguing the difference between public life and private life. That's what your argument is there. Right now, I'm just saying that the president of the United States at the time called and said, you cannot report this. Do not report this. So if you're saying that you shouldn't be in the government if you were a lobbyist at one point, or if you were in the media in some other role, then that's a different subject. I'm happy to have that conversation, but I think that's different than Trump calling the owner of a news agency and saying, you cannot report this. That's different.
Okay.
So that's part of the solution. Now, whether or not that's an NPR thing, I don't have any idea. But the fact that news agencies are motivated to provide the news that is based on the viewers that are watching is a problem.
Right. The infotainment.
Right. So you essentially have the Hannitys of the world that are opinion writers. They're not journalists. They're not providing facts as we maybe used to know them. That is an issue. Now, I'm not saying that CNN doesn't have those issues too, because I'm saying that they do. I'm just saying that it is very problematic in the Fox News realm.
Because I was watching the impeachment closing and vote earlier today.
Mm-hmm.
It was on CBS, like actual CBS,
mm-hmm.
and like immediately as the vote comes to a close or whatever, I can't remember who were the anchors on this, or whatever, but it's like, I think it was the first thing they said after the vote went for not to convict or whatever. It was, the first chapter of the biography of President Trump will be that he was impeached twice. And it's like, true. I mean, that's a true statement. I'm not disagreeing. It's a true statement, but that is not the news that's like you were saying, it gets into an opinion piece. It's like, yeah, I agree. That is the long-term look back, but how is that relevant to the exact news that we're talking about right now? The exact news that we're talking about right now is that he was acquitted in the Senate hearing on it. He has not been fully impeached, or whatever the terminology is, the second time. The argument of whether it's constitutional to impeach a president that's not holding seat anymore and all this stuff. I think the second thing out of their mouth was blaming McConnell for not having the trial sooner. Mm-hmm. Even though there was no point for them to have the trial sooner, because they would have had to call a special session too. Was the argument, at least? I
think that. So I'm gonna push back on that. I do think. I know that you said that's just the argument. That's not necessarily your argument. I think it is important to call a special session there, because essentially what it means is, really, any president for the last, say, 3 weeks or however long it is that they're in office, they can essentially do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Right.
So I think that is problematic. I think you do need to call that special session. But again, it brings negative attention to the Republican Party. And Mitch McConnell, if anything, has been nothing more than a party loyalist the entire time he's been there. And so I do think it's a potentially dangerous precedent. If Joe Biden gets in there and starts doing some crazy ass shit the last 3 weeks that he's in office, he should be impeached too. So I
think the one thing that and again, this is the constitutionality of the thing that's interesting on it is, if we impeach after they leave office, can we go back and impeach Obama? Not that he has anything to be impeachable for, which I think he does, but that's a separate point. Can we go back and impeach Obama? He can't run for president again anyway, so
I don't know.
Pointless.
There was something, I was reading something the other day. I'll have to look this up. But somebody has been impeached after they were in office previously.
It was Blunt here, and it was like Blunt when he was a senator, I think is what it was.
Okay, then
I remember hearing about it.
It was something else too. I don't know if that was necessarily what I was thinking about, but I mean, if you say you don't have the time for it, which is incorrect, so let's do it after he's out of office. But then after he's out of office, you say you can't do it because he's out of office. It's disingenuous.
Right. It smacks of intent to stall.
Right. And so I don't know, man. Again, you realize that if you even potentially disenfranchise 10% of those 75 million people, you're not going to get a Republican in office the next time around. So
Well, I mean,
that's the reason. It's a game plan.
Right, but I mean the whole thing is the whole two-party game is the game anyway. It's like it's literally we're having this hearing, and everybody already knows before the hearing even fucking starts how the vote's going to go.
It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
We have, but fine, we do it anyway. But it's like, we have a 50-50 Senate now, and it's 57-43, and it's all 50 Democrats and 7 Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a single Democrat that had any issue with it, that felt like, it's, I don't know. That's the bigger problem to me, is that it's so automatic that this is a Democrats issue. They're all on board. We just have to shift however many we get to our 2/3 or whatever, because this is a 2/3 vote thing. We just have to get XYZ.
I don't think that's telling. I think it's more telling that there were only 7. I don't think it's telling that all 50 voted, all 50 Democrats voted to impeach. I think it's more telling that you had 7 of the other party and not anybody else. Like it seems to me that if you have 7, why don't you have more? You don't have more because they're playing the long run game.
There were at least, I think it,
like 2 or 3 of them.
They did 2 that voted
that aren't running for that are either limited or not limited, but they've already announced that they're not going to run again.
That's not what I was about to say.
I'm sorry. There's 2 of those though. My bad.
There were 2 that voted that it was not even, I guess, constitutional to bring this even to him. As far as like bringing apart the impeachment was, non-constitutional. But then after hearing it, said that yes, he still should be impeached.
Mm-hmm.
When 4 or 5 days prior, they said that we shouldn't even bring this grounds for constitutional.
It's
basis.
a procedural argument versus a functional argument, though, in those 2 things.
Yes,
but again, that's a game. That was a game play. That was a game they were playing anyway, because they don't want to go on the record to vote for or against whatever they wanted to do, whatever they knew the right thing to do, which apparently was to vote for impeachment. They knew that was the right thing to do, and they knew if it came to vote, they were going to have to, but they didn't want to go on the record for it because it goes against the game plan.
Sure.
And so if they could throw it out on procedure, then they don't have to go on the record with doing what's air quotes right.
Yes.
And that's what many of them did. They essentially, voted it down because of that. Mitch McConnell essentially did that. Basically said that, yes, Trump was guilty, but he still voted not guilty.
It's dangerous.
Or voted to acquit.
It's dangerous. We are so gridlocked in our 2-party system, which is exactly how they want it, but we're so gridlocked that we don't understand that there are actual real ramifications for this sort of thing.
Well, I mean, that's my point, is that it's so that since it's not exclusively this one, but this is an example of it, is that if it's a Democrats issue, it's now that we're 50-50, it's going to be 50, and then it's convince XYZ to get however many we need to get for this particular issue. This one being 2/3, but other ones being, if the 51-50 is a win with Harris as the tiebreaker. But it's like that's that's the whole conversation right now, is we have a tied Senate with the vice president as the tiebreaker. We have a Democrats House, and we have a Democrat in the White House. So it's go time.
It should be, but it's not. I mean, the Democrats will find a way to fuck this up.
Right. Same way the Republicans did the first time.
I would argue that they actually didn't. I mean, they got 3 Supreme Court seats out of this. I mean, they stonewalled Merrick Garland,
right?
And they pushed through whatever her name is, Amy something.
Coney Barrett.
There you go.
ACB.
The concern, though, is I actually think that Democrats don't play as much hardball, or don't play hardball as well as the Republicans do. I really believe that.
What I'm excited about is Republicans actually turn into fiscal conservatives again. Now that
now
that
right.
they have no control.
Sure, and I think you're saying that tongue in cheek. Actually, so the only time that they care about fiscal conservatism is when they're not. Yeah, when they don't have a president in office. So George W's in office, and we have a huge deficit.
Right. Trump spent more money than any president in history.
Right.
It's a big deal.
I think it's interesting too that
Don't
it's
make
like,
up fake news.
It's true. Let's not give money out to
verified.
Right. Let's not give $2,000 checks to folks because we can't afford that. Really? We can't afford that? Really?
I mean, I think that's Biden's first lie. He promised 2,000. No, it was.
He said we'll get he said 2,000, which would be 14 plus 6. Is essentially what his math is.
It's right. It's 14 plus 6, but
right.
I don't. That's not what I thought when he said 2,000.
What? A politician lied?
Not the president. We got to believe the president. We should be able to believe the president when he speaks.
Oh, okay, so Trump.
Are you really
swamp?
making that argument right now?
I mean, I'm just because he said it.
Oh, come on.
Trump
I don't believe any of them when they talk. I don't. What,
That's come on. You don't believe any of them ever? None of them about anything?
not particularly.
That's
no.
not true.
Not that
That's not true.
I don't trust that anything's
Why do
in
you
good
vote
faith.
then?
Do what?
Why do you vote then?
I don't vote for them.
No. Why do you vote then? You said politician. You saying any politician in the Republican Democrat Party? You didn't say that. You vote for your Libertarian every year.
I do.
So I mean, they're politicians. Why do you trust them?
That's true. That's a valid point.
I'm just saying. I'm not trying to be
I
like
was
gotcha there.
I was inarticulate with exactly who I don't trust in the whole scheme of things.
Should you capital T trust any of them? No, but I mean you should trust that they have your best interest in mind, not the best interest of their party, which is essentially what the Republicans have done the last 4 years.
I mean, the 2000 thing, I see it as a campaign goal. This is what I'm fighting for. Should he have guaranteed it? I don't know what his exact words were.
The thing that's the thing that's frustrating though is you control both chambers.
Right. So it's not a.
You could do this if you want to.
Right. That was my pushback on it. That was my joke. Is that it's if that's the campaign goal, then he has the power to do so. It's not like in other administrations where he has split House and Senate, where he has to get enough people and has to play the actual politics game and the concessions and all that kind of shit.
I think he wants to do that. I mean, I think he does want to have some sort of bipartisan agreement, which I think is different than what the Republicans have wanted for the last 4 years. I mean, I really do believe that.
Laws and things that passed will go over better in the general public if it's bipartisan versus every single thing that's put on the board. It's like, oh well, the only reason it passed was because there was 51% of the Congress that voted for this.
He's a better person than me. If it was me, I'd be fuck you, motherfuckers. I've got 2 years to do whatever the fuck I want to. Like you got 3 Supreme Court seats out of this. We didn't get Merrick Garland. Eat a dick. Like we're gonna push this shit through because you guys are gonna do it. I mean, the Democrats not playing hardball when it's necessary is a problem. I think it's horseshit that Republicans can play hardball and do the Mitch McConnell stuff, and then when we have the opportunity to do the same thing, and I understand it's February, we're only right at a month into this, but there's some things that if you can't get bipartisan support, fuck them, do it anyway.
All 75 million of them.
I can see the way that it turns into essentially the optics of it could be retribution, and that's where we ran into with gerrymandering. It's where anytime that party's in power, the redistricting gets put back into their favor, and it just goes back and forth, and we've done that for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Or it's just been a retribution of, okay, you redrew the lines to benefit yourself, we're going to do the same thing. Next party said, oh, you guys did the same thing, we're going to do the same thing again. And that's how we get the most fucked up looking districts I've ever seen.
I mean, I agree that gerrymander's a thing. I just don't. We've argued this 1,000 times, but I don't think it's retribution. I think it's in my best interest, and I'm in control now, so I'm going to gerrymander it my way.
That's a semantics argument, though.
It's not that you did it that way last time. This is the way it is done. It's not an answer to your doings.
Well, it is an answer to your doings, because if you don't do that, then you lose.
It's not an answer to the way our elections should be.
I agree. I agree with that. I just you always make it a retribution argument, and I just disagree with that part of it.
I think it's a semantics thing.
Okay, that's fine. I was just throwing it out there.
Okay.
I like to rehash old arguments as much as possible.
Do you find that entertaining?
We got like 40 more episodes to go.
Can we start writing down our arguments just so we can rehash them?
I've started building the website. We can make I could put a page on the site that's the most rehashed arguments page, and we can each put our own fine points on it, and we can reference ourselves over and over again.
The top of the list needs to be libertarianism. Needs to be at the top of that list.
I mean, it's going to be continually re-argued over and over again, so it's fine. I'm good with it. I like arguing.
I don't think that's been our top argument.
What's been our top argument then?
I don't know. I was about to say, I don't know what it is.
I think taxation and where that money is allocated. I think and the groundwork of all that. I think is libertarianism. I think that so it may not be. I think it's the elephant in the room. I think if it's not the topic, I think it's when you keep working backwards. I think it ends up being the topic.
Yeah, I don't remember what we talked about on our first episode.
Politics and sports. That was episode 1.
That's
But when we tried to pretend like we were going to prep ourselves and have a topic, that was before he showed up. But
any thoughts on the whole NBA and Mark Cuban refusing to play the national anthem? NBA coming down.
I'm okay with it.
Saying down that you have to play the national anthem.
I haven't paid. It's basketball. I could give a shit less.
Did you hear about it?
I did hear about it.
Okay, so baseball decides to do it. Do you care now?
No, baseball. I could give a shit less.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Cricket.
What about the Packers decide not to play the national anthem before kickoff?
I think it's weird.
What's weird about it?
Oh, it's just part of the game. It's like part of the show.
Is it?
Yeah.
Part of your expectation or part of your patriotism? That was kind of my whole thing. Like I wouldn't care to go to any kind of sporting event in there. I wouldn't mind a bit if they didn't play the national anthem. I don't think right before a game that's any kind of requirement.
I mean, I don't know what the rules are for the league. I don't know if that's in the rule
It
book.
is now. The NBA said you're going to do it anyway.
I don't think it's any less. I don't think it's unpatriotic to not play the national anthem before a sporting event.
Well, I mean, I think that right. I mean, okay.
I think this is also a no-win argument for Democrats. This is an argument that is set up for Republicans.
I'm wondering when it started.
When it was start?
When we started playing the national anthem before every single sporting event.
That's a fantastic question. Don't know. We don't do it before work every day.
Yeah, all of a sudden we want to stop. Everybody's like, "Oh no, you're the Antichrist."
Yeah, the funny thing is actually, like, there were like 13 games last year that they didn't play it and nobody cared. Like, it wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden he comes out and says, "Yeah, we're not gonna do it anymore," and then now it's a thing.
Well, it's because Mark Cuban's one of the more polarizing guys in the game.
I mean, most of it's not televised.
I don't need to hear it. I just don't need to hear it. But again, this is a no-win argument for the Democrats. This is absolutely 100% a win always for Republicans. It's another one of those do you kneel or not? It's a Republican win every time. Anytime it comes up, it sucks out the oxygen in the room. It paints you as a non-patriot if you don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance or you don't stand for the Star Spangled Banner. You are seen as an un-American. It's a non-winning argument every single time for any progressive or any person on the left. So you almost want to not engage it, because if you give it oxygen and let it go, it doesn't do anything except you lose votes.
I mean, I'll agree that I would say that I probably wouldn't notice if I was at a game and it didn't happen. I certainly wouldn't notice if I'm watching on TV, but like I probably wouldn't notice.
They don't play it on TV.
Football games they usually do.
They'll never do it on baseball games. And I mean, well, playoffs maybe, but like regular season baseball, never play it. It's always commercial.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like I don't know if I'd notice if it didn't, if the argument wasn't happening in the social media sphere, I wouldn't have noticed this one either.
Yeah, I'd say majority of the time,
Obviously.
unless they had like some big star out there singing it, like, oh, we had Madonna singing the national anthem, they would play that on TV.
So with the Super Bowl pregame, I was watching the pregame of the Super Bowl, and they were talking to, for whatever reason, they were talking about when Whitney Houston did the national anthem, and they were talking to the producer or the producer-composer that did the arrangement and worked with the Marine Corps band to get it all set up with her or whatever. It's pretty jacked. I was like, yes, America, fuck yeah. That's a good one.
But again, that's why it's a winning argument for Republicans every time. Because if you're against it at all, you're not a patriot. That's not true. I don't agree with that, but that's
right.
the argument.
I get it. I don't.
So,
no.
And Democrats will get fucking sucked into that shit because they don't know how to play hardball. They're fucking pussies.
I mean, you're automatically on the defensive trying to defend yourself. It's like, well, yes, I am American. Like, no, you didn't like that.
Right.
Automatically, you're some lefty commie.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Roseanne's rendition at a baseball game. That was pretty rough.
Which is funny because she's also a Trump supporter.
She's just not a very good singer. That was awful.
She's not really a very good anything, actually.
On a hair sing.
I enjoyed Roseanne, the old version of it. The new show wasn't. I never watched the new one, but
She wasn't on there very long before they kicked her off.
Yeah, the old one was fun. I enjoyed it. Wasn't like I didn't like stop it wasn't like, oh, it's Tuesday night, we got to go home and watch Roseanne. But
It was just what
when
was
we were
on at
living
dinner time.
when we were living in the Pink House,
Yeah.
when we had internet, but we didn't pay for cable, and so we got like 12 channels, and one of those 12 channels was some like Nickelodeon, Nick at Night, some shit like that, and they used to do like 4 or 8 episodes in a row of Roseanne. Get home from work and drink a couple beers and watch Roseanne. It's good times.
Well, sure. I don't know.
That Pink House was the jam.
Is that the one by Kroger?
Yeah, the Fellini Kroger.
What's Fellini?
I don't know. That's just what people call it. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad
never
thing.
understood where the Fellini came from.
It's right there next to Fulton High School. They call it Fellini Kroger. I don't know.
If there was a business that used to be around there that was Fellini's.
Got me.
Maybe that was the old grocery store that was there that Kroger bought out. Like the old Fellini Kroger.
Perhaps. I don't know what national anthem argument. We failed miserably. Well, I failed miserably. We stayed on national politics the whole time. That's not my intent.
What was your
Have
intent?
Have you looked at any of the baseball stadium thing yet?
Baseball stadium thing?
No. That's
What are you talking? Tell me what you're talking about, and I'll tell you whether that's an answer or not.
Knoxville baseball.
Oh yeah, I've looked
Knoxville.
at it. What about it?
What are your thoughts on it? I mean, you already told me you didn't care to drive up to Sevierville.
No, I don't. It's a nice stadium.
So I thought too. It's been at least good 5 or 10 years since I've been up there, but it was in pretty damn good condition when I went there.
2020 was the first year I hadn't been since I lived here, maybe, only because they didn't have minor league baseball. It's a great stadium. This is going to sound get off my lawn or pro-conservative, but my concern is the parking's going to be terrible downtown. There's going to be a fuck ton more riffraff down there, whether it's panhandlers or drunk college kids or whatever. Like I feel like it's going to be less about baseball and more about entertainment.
I mean, I'd be curious to see the current stadium's attendance, if they really think that they're going to bring that much more people on a regular basis to downtown Knoxville.
Yeah, I mean, Randy Boyd has to have had some figures out there that says this is a financially savvy thing for him to do.
You would think. Seth and I were talking before. I was like, well, they used to be in Knoxville. Like, if we look back at the reasons like why they left.
Yes, actually. So they were off of Martin Luther King, like East Knox area. And so at the time, they left because the city wouldn't invest in a new stadium.
I've heard of.
So that's why they left.
It was a little different than
That's
that.
what
But
we
yeah.
figured, which happens for
My
a lot of
understanding
major league teams. They're like, if you don't make us a new stadium, we're going to leave.
My understanding was that it was pitched, and the city and county couldn't agree on it, and so it was never offered.
Well, I mean, okay.
I'm just saying.
Same. I mean,
Well, it's because one of the things that's interesting for me in my Metro pitch, and I like to pitch Metro all the time and shit like that. That's one of the things that's happening now is we have a joint operation between the city and the county, and it's that interaction is part of the picture that's happening here. Is how the city and county are working together, because the city is 10 of 11 of the the city council persons are Democrats. 9 of the 11 county commissioners are Republicans, so they're very party different bodies, and they tend to not get along. At least they're assumed to not get along, and so it's watching this show as part of it is.
I'm trying to understand how that's different than we didn't want to pay for it here. I'm trying to see how do we disagree on why they moved.
I was just clarifying that it wasn't that the city wasn't going to provide it, is that the city and the county couldn't come to an agreement on what they were going to provide.
The area that is Knoxville could not would not invest the money in having a stadium or relocate it or whatever. Maybe the city, and my usage of the word city was politicians in this area would not back it, is what I was trying to say.
I don't know. That's my point. Is that yes, that is a correct statement. But what I don't know the history of it is whether it was the city was down but the county wasn't, or the county was down and the city wasn't. And so that interplay is what I'm curious about. Is
right.
Why I bring it up.
Right. As a purely baseball fan, I will go to this new stadium just to see the games. But from a purely a baseball standpoint, I think as a baseball fan, I will dislike it. I think that'll be. I don't know if you heard that while you were pissing.
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Right. There's more shit comes along with it. Parking's gonna suck.
Yep.
Maybe not necessarily more crowded, but more
condensed.
Right, more condensed, and getting in and out stuff's gonna be tough. But I don't know. it's interesting. One of the things I learned today, and I'm not sure if I learned it or not, but I was trying to figure it out, is the actual staff and players. They changed the relationship between minor league baseball and Major League Baseball is a new format this year.
Correct.
And
Which sucks.
The way because they cut off a bunch of teams too, which is one of the
Yes.
concerns. One of the concerns on the people against putting the stadium down there is what happens if in 10 years the minor leagues shrink again, and the Smokies are one of the teams that Major League Baseball doesn't continue contracts with.
Yep.
Which is it's a very valid argument to have. But if I was reading the statement from Major League Baseball correctly, is that the affiliate team has the staff and player salaries.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's operations that the Boyd Corporation will take care of and stuff like that. There's on the field staff as far as like security and concessions and all that kind of shit. But the majority of payroll is not going on the Boyd ledger.
Mm-hmm.
And a reasonable rent for the facility is not going on the Boyd ledger if the city pays for it, county pay for it. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I mean, like that was my argument I was making earlier today on Facebook. It was like, I would love to have a third of rent and payroll covered by somebody else, because that's a lot of money. Like our number one expense is payroll.
Yeah.
I mean, that is by far our number one expense, hands down. So even if it's 90% less, because I mean, I would assume the players and this coaching staff are going to be the highest paid other than the top level managers as far as operations go. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that'd be a great position to be in. And you know, I don't know. I have a hard time understanding the argument that he can't afford it to do it on his own. I have a hard time understanding.
Hold on. What do you mean by on his own?
That the Smokies baseball organization can't afford to buy and build the stadium on their own. He can. It's not a question.
Yeah, sure. He absolutely can.
It's just not financially.
You don't want to take on the liability.
It's not a financially smart decision for him to make, and so that's why he's playing the card that he can. Which that's another fun little history I don't know, and I'd be curious to know like when it started.
When what started?
When the civic owned facilities became a thing, because it's one of those, to me, it's one of those. It started now, and so that is a card that owners have to play. Where
it's probably going on for decades. Honestly.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I my guess, and I don't know this at all for a fact, but my guess would be is some team owner was also a mayor or something like that, and some really really dirty version of it that's much more direct than this new version that's come about over the years. But something more direct, some city council person or you know, financial officer for the city was like, hey. Why don't we do this? This would be a great thing for the city, and just like sells it as a whole bullshit pitch, but it's really just him buying a stadium for himself, but using the city money for it. That's my guess when it started, and then but once it started, I think it just went.
Or it could have been let's say Anderson County as a whole says, hey, listen, if you guys want to just move this about 15 miles over here to Anderson County, we'll look at all the additional revenue we get, we'll pay for it. Right. I mean, it's a simple business model. It makes sense,
and that's something that we do as all in all levels of government all the time anyway, as well. Sure. I mean, that's where like the Volkswagen plant down in Chattanooga.
I was just going to say that actually.
You know, I don't know what Blount County's given to Amazon for this new Amazon center.
It's no different. It's the same thing, really.
Yeah, and so that's where I kind of go. I go back and forth on it. Like I think he could. I think Boyd could definitely do it on his own. I think you could do it as a publicly funded or a privately publicly funded venture, where it's not actual tax dollars being funded, but you publicly sell shares,
right, to
get the public involved in paying for it, but not through taxes, through individual investment, not taxes. I think that's an option that nobody's seemed to talk about.
Well, I mean, why?
Why would
right? Because if you're Randy Boyd, you don't. Why would you want that? Because it means that there are a lot more voices that could tell you what to do. Right. So like if it's the private public that if that's what we're calling it, he can't unilaterally do anything there.
I mean, he can. It depends how he sets it up.
Well, let me rephrase. It's more challenging. He has more loops to jump through.
Right.
If that's the case, if it's simply the taxpayers are paying for it, then I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to complain at your council meeting?
Right.
I mean, and how many people go there? Like, I would imagine that the involvement in people, there would be more involvement, I would assume, or I would guess that there would be more involvement in telling him what he can do with the property there if people are invested.
Right. If I'm a direct investor, I'm gonna feel
That's what I'm trying
entitled
to
to
say.
be like, listen up. This is right.
Why would he want that as a businessman?
Right.
So,
No, I agree. I just say, like he said in the meeting that it was. I can't remember exactly his verbiage, but he basically said it was not an option.
well, it is. It's just not an option for him.
Right.
I mean, I think. I mean, I would invest in it.
I would too. I'd do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd
how
throw
does
a
that work
couple.
with most companies where you have investors, but someone says, I hold 51% of the shares of this company. I'm the controlling thing.
Right. That's
What
what
I'd say is the final go. I am the majority shareholder.
True, but I mean, if you get those 49% of folks together and
They can sell off their shares.
you get a big enough stink about things, he might be more inclined to actually listen because the PR hit is a negative thing.
True.
So if he's just got taxpayers, I mean, okay, you get 25 taxpayers out there that are bitching about something. Okay, you got 25 taxpayers. He just throws them a bone and says, so some sort of bullshit rhetoric. It's a little bit different than if he's got,
Right.
a class action suit against him for some damn reason.
Right.
All right, well, we had how many NFL teams that moved in the past year or two?
A handful.
3?
Yeah.
Two
You
or
had
three?
San Diego went to L.A. The Rams went to St. Louis. Rams went to L.A. Oakland went to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
That was it, I think. Vegas built a $1 billion stadium. LA's building a $1 billion stadium, but they're sharing that. I mean, that one makes sense. I mean, that's just weird to me. But I think that'd be and again, that's the one thing too, and the multi-use part of it. I would love to have a nice outdoor concert venue.
Well, that came down from what I thought I heard was, those teams asked the city, we want a new stadium, even though they had what I would assume would be a pretty fucking damn good stadium. We're like, we need a new stadium. If you don't,
Jerry Jones fucked that up for everybody in football.
we're gonna move.
I mean, he really
They're
did.
like, city said, we don't have the fucking money to build you a stadium. You've got a fucking goddamn stadium right there.
Bye, Felicia.
Right.
And then the city knew they were going to lose money, but at the same time, it's that kind of cost. I'm assuming they did a cost-benefit analysis of how much it's going to cost them to tear down that old building, to build a whole new one, have it shut down for how many months, just to have a brand new stadium and have the team there, which may or not have been a great team that was, selling out the stadium day in and day out.
I'm also curious. What are they going to do with the old Smoky Stadium?
It's the Sevier County's issue.
That was one thing they were talking about. Stipulating was like, okay, if you're gonna have a stadium, we want it to be a multi-use stadium. It's like it's not just gonna be baseball.
Right.
Tell you what,
There was talk about having it be a split, UT baseball stadium and Smoky Stadium, and also events and whatnot.
That Cherokee, the North Carolina band Cherokee tribe thing that's going in right across 40 from there, at 407 exit.
What's going in there?
It's there's the Cherokee Nation's building something.
Casino?
Not a casino officially. That's what everybody said. That's what
everybody's
the rumor
first
is.
thought.
But maybe with that baseball, maybe the baseball, if the Smokies move here and that baseball stadium's empty, the Cherokee Nation will pick that property up and build a.
Yeah, I wasn't
there.
saying that it's not a Sevier County problem. I'm saying, what are they going to do with it?
Yeah.
Whoever's problem it is, I don't give a fuck whose it is. What I mean, is it it's just an empty stadium now?
Yeah.
I mean, that sucks.
Well, I mean, and the reality is that is one of the arguments against Knoxville, Knox County paying for it is that what do we do with it when they leave in the future?
Well, I think the difference with that though is that if they left in downtown Knoxville, then you have games of the week, baseball, like high school baseball there or something. So I think it's a little bit easier to swallow with that. But if you're out in fucking Kodak, I mean, who's gonna play there?
Yeah, you put the flea market in there.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. And again, like there's a lot of stuff there that's interesting because I think, like I said, I think a good outdoor concert venue because they don't do anything at World's Fair anymore. Like other than 4th of July, you can't go to. They don't do concerts in the lawn at Lowe's.
What are you implying? You're trying to
doing that?
Huh?
When did they stop doing that?
It's been a while. I don't remember the last. Other than the 4th of July concert, I don't know when the last time they've done anything.
Anybody big enough to be there?
I think I had this conversation with somebody the other day. Part of the reason why we don't have anybody here is because the venues suck. I mean,
Civic's terrible. That's one. That's
oh yeah, it's dog shit.
to me, that's my argument. That's my main argument against baseball. Is like if we're going to spend this kind of money on a multi-use facility, build us a new Civic.
And we have
Then we can do a lot
cities
more
like
better
Asheville.
shit.
They get better music than we do.
That's true. Has Radiohead played Nashville?
No, not in our stretch of it.
I mean,
I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen him in the state of Tennessee.
I mean, the Ryman's not big. I mean, that's their great music facility.
They've had big acts in Nashville, though. I mean,
They play Bridgestone, and
yeah,
I don't know if they have an outdoor park or not. Like at Centennial Park, I guess.
they have an outdoor park. Cause we, I've seen who the hell did I see there?
I mean, I saw Santana back in the day at the World's Fair lawn.
Who the hell did I see there? I saw
311 played there when we were in high school.
I saw Florence outside. Florence and the Machine was in Nashville, and Lana Del Rey was in Nashville, an outdoor concert. Kings of Leon was inside though.
I'm saying I think
Bridgestone.
right. You know, but the UT won't let us do it.
Well, Kodak might, so let's find out how much it is to buy it.
They let Garth do it. They
No,
let
I'm just saying,
They
well,
let Kenny
no.
Chesney do it.
No, that's what I was saying. I'm saying UT won't let the city build a new Civic.
The University of
you meant
Tennessee.
Blade
Yeah.
Nayland.
Why is that?
I think they will fight it. I'm not saying they can't. They won't let us do it, but I think
Why would
university.
they find it?
I think Boyd being
Now?
the president currently is part of the issue, but I think the UT doesn't want to lose.
You mean from Thompson Bowling?
They don't want to lose activities in Thompson. So if we had a new,
That's kind of well, it's gotten better, I guess, but it's still kind of a shithole.
it's a terrible venue. I saw fucking Prince there, and it was a terrible show. Like that hurts my feelings. It hurts my feelings a lot.
Yeah, all right.
I saw
Yeah.
Prince in concert, and I should be excited about that, but it sounded like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Tool at the Civic, and sound quality was shit.
Right.
Concrete walls where we have our hockey games at.
Radiohead hasn't played Nashville?
I don't believe so.
I guess every time that we've seen him, it was in Atlanta, or we went to Columbus one time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Cleveland one time.
Cleveland. We went to Cleveland too. That's right.
Just outside.
Yeah, we drove up and came right back. I remember that shit.
That was Columbus on Ohio State's campus.
Oh fuck yeah!
So I'm just saying, like
Jesus Christ, I
that's
forgot about
to me that makes more sense as a public fixture, as the term.
We essentially saw them at their Thompson Bowling Arena.
Yeah, but theirs is bigger than ours.
Was it?
I wasn't really all that impressed with was it the Columbus thing? I wasn't. I wasn't impressed with.
Phillips was nice in Atlanta when we saw him
sure,
at Phillips.
Sure.
I mean, I still think
There was the Cleveland one was an outside show, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
An amphitheater.
Hmm.
I think my favorite was the first.
It's like
my
45 minutes outside of
my
Cleveland.
first was probably my favorite when it's the Stone Mountain. That was you didn't go with us that one.
Were we friends then?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'm just trying to figure out why I said no to Radiohead is the problem.
I don't know. I don't think we were friends. I mean, we knew each other. I mean, I don't know. It was 2001.
We didn't know each other then. If it was 2001, I think it was 2003 when we had our class together.
Yeah, because it was. I went with Will and Jeff and Steve and I don't remember. There was like 6 or 7 of us piled into.
I didn't take that creative writing class until my first senior year.
Your first senior year. But Stone Mountain was awesome.
Huh.
That was a good show.
Supposedly Michael Stipe was dancing along the side of the stage.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I never saw him.
But yeah, I think a good outdoor venue would be nice if the stadium could handle it well. This baseball stadium could handle it well.
We should look into buying the stadium, the old stadium.
The old stadium. Okay, can we shoot deer on it?
I have expected
sitting up in the press box.
Yeah, I have expected. When Max sent us that Doll sheep, I was like, they fucking unchained that son of a bitch. Like they know where they are.
That's that's a lot of fucking money for that though.
Here's my own. So I think it's cool that he got a Doll sheep. I really do. But he said that they don't reproduce there. That allegedly the coyotes get them, and so they just bring them in every year. To me, that's pretty close to a zoo. It's not a zoo. And
so the one thing I wonder about as well, the other guy that went with them was telling me that they don't bring any in because there's so many coyotes.
I'm like, well,
fucking what, $1,100 for a sheep.
I would spend $1,100 for a sheep if I'm like, if I'm going on some terrain and that's a habitat for them. But I don't think he knew that when he was showing up. I don't think anybody's,
Right.
So it'd be like, somebody, it'd be like putting a woolly mammoth in the middle of a field, and you say you got to go find it. But we're bringing it in every year.
Right.
Hopefully you would find it because it's a fucking woolly mammoth. But they don't reproduce there. I think he would care more if he was in a mountain range and he found, came across some doll sheep and he was like hunting them and stalking them for,
Right.
3 days or something.
Is that a price for a guaranteed?
I think the $1,100 is if you
prices.
harvest one. If you don't, you just pay for the $300.
Lodging,
The
whatever.
lodging. Yeah, I think.
So yeah, it's 11. It's guaranteed. It's pretty much.
Well, yeah,
is what it sounds
sure.
like.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I don't know how. I mean, I can't imagine they pay a lot of money for him to get him there.
I have no idea how much they are.
I wouldn't think it was a ton, but I don't know. Could be wrong. But
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been to a quote-unquote game preserve down in Georgia where I'm pretty sure it was fenced off, where you were just going there for deer hunting. But
right, fenced in, so I can't go.
yeah, I mean, it was a very large.
Right, you
area.
get into some 1,000-acre fenced-in hunting range. It's
But they know there's a certain amount of deer, like, within these confines.
yeah. You just gotta, as long as you walk far enough, you're gonna see something.
Right. And that's where you've got the guy that'll try to, stir them up towards your way.
Yeah,
Like going around with a four-wheeler, just trying to scare them in a certain direction.
wake up, suckers.
Which,
Get over there.
in a general hunt, I'm pretty sure I remember, like, reading the TWRA. It's like you can't do deer drives in certain areas. Where you essentially, I guess, have people, like, lined up, like, scaring
Oh,
game in a certain direction.
I mean, I kind of did it on purpose ish. I tried to, like when I went over to the far one that I wanted to go to, where I ended up seeing you across the creek.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was pulling into the little side road, I was wailing that gas, trying to make as much noise as I could on that 4-wheeler to push him from the road towards the creek, towards the river. Because that's
I
where
don't
I was
know
going
if
to
it's
set
so
up.
much as like an individual
Yeah, I
person
don't
trying to do that. I think it's more when you get like 10, 15 of your buddies
Right.
in like 20 feet apart in a line trying to
Hey, run, motherfucker.
literally drive not just one but just drive like anything in a certain direction.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of flat fucked up. It's not really hunting. It's
Right. Yeah, that's where you get into that's unsportsmanlike.
last call. What do we got? Anything final pressing matter before we call it a night?
I think we need to buy the stadium.
What are we gonna do with it?
Outdoor venue.
Yeah, but that's a fucking drive. Actually, that's probably
It's-
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably better, actually.
I kind of like we didn't delve into the what happened today. That's good.
Yeah, I don't want to dive into that. It's almost 2 o'clock.
We touched it a little bit. Wait, what? I mean,
We dipped our toe in it.
okay. I was making sure I wasn't thinking of something different.
No, you were thinking about
Okay.
that. We need to buy the stadium.
Okay. That's.
I'm actually kind of serious.
I mean, it could be cool because it goes because left field wall is a fucking mountain.
Yeah.
Did you go to the website yet?
Which one?
No, I couldn't find it.
Oh.
Which
You said
website?
There's a stadium project site that
For the new one?
the Boyd family or whatever put up. I went to his website, which is weird. Have you checked that shit out?
No.
All right, let me find it real quick so I can properly
Yeah, don't know. I think it was
advertise.
a local
This
news
episode is
site.
not brought to you by Randy Boyd.
I went to on a local news site, and they had, a link in the story that was saying, like, hey, the stadium has a website where you can find this info about it. But when I went to it, it went to that site kind of within, the local news website's app.
Oh, it's
So
simple.
it didn't tell me a web page or anything, and I was like, well, what the fuck is this? I was like, what is a website?
So, when are they breaking ground, and when are they anticipating the first game to be?
If it
I mean, apparently there's already fucking cameras where you can watch, like, demolition and the stadium being built.
okay, well,
They've
okay, so
already prepared that.
Boyd promised that he was going to do the demo regardless because it's still his. It's all his property.
Yeah, he's owned it for a while.
And so he's going to do the demo regardless. And so I think he's already started on demo. If everything gets passed and all the different legalities and loops and all that kind of shit, they're hoping to start in the fall of this year. And that opening day 23, which will be April 23,
Yeah.
I believe is their. I believe.
That's a long time. It's
Actually, no, I
taking-
take that back. Hold on. I have the fucking
It's
thing
gonna
on
take
here.
fucking 16 months to build a stadium down there.
Where did I put it? I gotta
Seems
find
like a long time.
It may be 22. I might be wrong. I'd find it, but it's randyboyd.com. Like it looks like it's
I'm shocked.
It's a politician's website, but he's not a politician, so it's really weird that just a guy. I mean, he is a politician.
No, he's 100% a politician. He ran for governor, for Christ's sake.
I'm just saying, but it's not like vote. It's not vote Randy Boyd. Like,
well, it is. It just doesn't directly say that.
He's like, oh wait, damn it, can I be the president of UT?
Yeah, I know, right? Like you don't win.
You lose up.
Right. You don't win the primary to be the governor, and so you just decide, well, fuck it, I can just continue to have my political hands in the cookie jar by being the president of the largest state institution.
No, that's the one that I've had my biggest complaint on in this situation with the baseball
that's what
stadium.
we've talked about is him becoming the president to kind of forego this whole stadium and thing.
Well, it's just he's put himself. I mean, he has put himself in a position where he kind of controls Knox County.
Listen, anybody that is against this whole thing for that reason should have also been against Trump the last 4 years that we're having fucking prime ministers and other folks that are coming in that are staying on Trump's property. So I'm not okay with it either. I'm just saying that anybody who's against that should have been against Trump the last 4 years also.
Right.
Don't golf with the guy that what do we call him?
Who did?
Prince Sharif. Remember that guy that we talked about? You know what I'm
the
talking
sheriff?
about.
Sharif Gundi,
Yes, we called him something else.
the sheriff of Nottingham.
Yes, that guy. Aren't you the sheriff of Nottingham now?
No, I don't.
He's the Lord.
He's the Lord of Nottingham. He's got a tomato plant on a.
Yeah, spring 23 is opening date.
That seems like a long time. I don't know. I'm not a builder, but it just seems like 16 months is a long time.
Fall 2001 to spring 2003 when they anticipate.
That's gonna suck.
But and at the same time, all of the surrounding property that Boyd's owned will be doing his development at the same time. Like Boyd's goal is to have all construction done at the same time, so that when the stadium's done, everything around it's done. So it's not stadium construction and then all that construction moves next door. So that first season, everybody has to go through the construction of the neighbors.
I wonder how much his season tickets are gonna be.
No idea. But
I don't like it.
I don't know. I go back and forth. It's certainly not. I certainly tend to lean to he just fucking do it. Just do it yourself and leave us out of it.
I think it's pointless.
I mean, hell, Eric Wader from the Nats group, he probably put the best spin on it that I've heard so far. It's like if you're Boyd and you intend to continue in politics, which it seems like he does, how good does that make you look if you finance this yourself? How much better does it make it look for you as a politician that you're like, I didn't take advantage of the government and I could have done it this way, but I did it on my own because that was the right thing to do.
I
don't
picked
myself up by my bootstraps.
So my pushback on that is he would gain a little bit on that, but he also gains by saying that he brought the baseball team back to Knoxville, which is also true.
Right.
So
but,
I don't know how. So I brought it back to Knoxville versus I brought it back to Knoxville and paid it for my own. I don't know if it's that much better, really.
From a neighboring city.
Yeah, exactly.
30 minutes down the road.
Absolutely. I mean, tell me he won't spend
back.
that. He would absolutely spend that. He would say, we haven't had baseball in Knoxville in 20 years. You know who brought it back? RB brought it back, motherfucker. RB. That's exactly what he'd say.
I mean, I agree. I'm just saying
because Knoxville was missing baseball.
I think it would sell better, but I agree. I agree with you that it might not be as strong. The paying for it part, just to bring it back.
Yeah, I think that's
pretty solid
enough.
Itself.
Yeah, that's enough.
All right. You okay? Are you running? Yeah, we're done. You don't have to stay. I was just like, threw the headphones down. AC was done with us. Jesus Christ. Said, fuck you guys. It's out the door. It's going home.
I want to remind you that you came outside in like a thin flannel thing and a t-shirt saying, oh my God, I'm cold. So if I don't get a jump start, then I'm only going to have you out there for like 4 minutes.
I mean, okay. You're still only going to have me out there for 4 minutes either way.
But I get to smoke on it.
Almostinagreement at gmail.com, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I did that out of order and freaked myself out. Like you heard, I'm working on a website. It'll be almostinagreement.com, I think. Should have that up later this week. So check us out. Hit us up. Share us, like us, friend us, do all that kind of crap. Help us get the word out. I have got Massey, Manis, Parker, Smith,
Comptroller?
and SEMA all in line coming up here pretty soon. If Sam wants to bring me the comptroller, I'll take him. Oh, and Spangler. I'm working on Sheriff Spangler. Good night, everybody.